Going deep. Man's there. Got it. Jalen Hyatt, touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
He lets it rip, and Mingo's behind the defense. Goodbye, Jonathan Mingo. Touchdown, Rebels. 71 yards.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
We love fullbacks, and we rarely see fullbacks show up on depth charts anywhere around the country. Play action. Nifty handwork that time by Stanley. Looking for his tight end. Laporta grabs a ditch dive. Sam Laporta tripped up short of midfield, and big number 84 rumbles for a first down.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Levis over the middle, wide open Brown, angling across the 40. It's a foot race to the end zone. Barry on Brown, touchdown, Kentucky.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Rather with time. Underthrown and intercepted by the Wildcats. Julius Prince, the Iowa transfer.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Tuesday afternoon. And today, Baylor men's basketball has added a new guard to their lineup, which they need. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left. And in the studio today, we have Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross runs the mothership, and we're glad you're here today. So Baylor today gets this news that Jaden Nunn has committed. Virginia Commonwealth has committed to play at Baylor. He's not known for being someone who's going to score a lot, but he does give them a presence out front where he is going to play very, very tough, in-your-face type of defense. We can't show the highlights because we don't have the rights to, but what I saw was a guy that gives you a little bit of that pressure on the ball on the perimeter.
Atlantic 10 freshman of the year, one of the best players in that conference, and according to Jonathan Givony of ESPN, the best draft prospect coming out of the A10 right now long-term, and a very good defensive player. You know, the highlight, if you go and watch the highlights, you're going to see several steals, which is something Baylor had when they were really good on defense. They lacked that last year, was that transitional fast break, start a run with a steal kind of thing. So, yeah, this is a huge and very necessary pickup for them because right now at guard, you have Langston Love, who's played a season, and a bunch of guys who haven't played at all for Baylor. Even though they might be highly thought of, you've got a JUCO transfer in D'Antoine Grimes, then you've got a couple of, while heralded freshmen, they're still freshmen who have not played college basketball yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's been rumored about for a little while now. At least you knew that there was reciprocated interest, and Baylor had a good shot at landing him. Haven't watched highlights like you guys just yet, but they definitely needed some guard help and needed some defensive help, especially after what we saw last year. So it seems like he addresses at least both of those needs and obviously more than just that as well. So, it seems on paper to be a great addition, one of the better guards left still standing in the transfer portal, and they needed to make a move happen, and they did, so it's good to see.
So, Jaden Nunn, again, there's a chance we might be able to get Jaden on the show today. We're not sure exactly when, but if we get that opportunity, we will go to it. His other list of finalists were Penn State, Oklahoma, Texas, and LSU. Averaged 9 points, 1.5 steals per game, shot 40% from three-point range. That's a number that's good, and he's just 19 years old. A young sophomore who is 19 years old, as Paul mentioned, the Atlantic 10 all-rookie team. Speaking of defense, Davion Mitchell, who was as good as anybody I've ever seen out front, last night Sacramento did it again, beat the defending champion Golden State Warriors, and Davion Mitchell, there's a highlight that was attached to John Fanta's tweet, but we can't show it again, but a three from the corner that pretty much put the game on ice. Davion Mitchell and Sacramento are 2 up now on Golden State in that Western Conference first-round series.
He's nicknamed Off Night for a reason, and to see him taking on Steph Curry, like knowing Davion as we do, like he was like in this series, taking on Steph Curry and defending him is living in a dream. So it's really cool to see that, but if there's anybody who's going to not be dissuaded by the best scorer of the last 25 years in the NBA, it's Davion Mitchell. And so far, the Kings are one of the best stories in pro sports right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's too early to celebrate too much with the Kings just yet. You know, once they get up 3-0, maybe then you'd feel a little bit better. But even still, it's the Warriors, so not gonna drive the final nail in until it's clear that it's over. But until the Kings drive the final nail in, I won't declare it's over. But Davion's been a pest in the best kind of way. Saw a few different highlights coming out of that game from him last night. You mentioned the dagger three there at the end. Had a big steal and slam off the bad Draymond pass. Went off, I think it was Curry's leg, and that got a lot of play as well. And yeah, he's just doing what we've always known him to do. He hasn't lit up the scoreboard in the NBA, and he's been off and on as far as a starter goes. I think he's still kind of finding his role, but they did a great job of putting that team together in Sacramento, and he was one of those high picks of theirs that's put together a pretty nice formula and is obviously given the Warriors a lot of headaches right now. So, yeah, very cool to see that. Very cool to see him having some success.
14 points for Davion, had a couple of steals, and I think an assist, a couple of rebounds. Hit the three we mentioned, the highlight that kind of put a dagger in Golden State. Now, the first 2 games have been in Sacramento. Games, I think, 3 and 4 will be at Golden State. Now, the Washington quarterback Michael Penix said this earlier. Of course, spring now for everybody is either wrapped up or will wrap up at the end of the weekend. He said, our expectations are a national championship. That's what we all want, and that's what I believe or we believe we can get. Just my confidence. They, of course, 11 wins last year, won the bowl game against Texas, returned a lot of the national award candidates, and I kind of like the fact Michael Penix said, hey, what the hell, let's get this. And, of course, now that will start when we get to September.
I think you got to – I think if you really have a team that you think is built for it, and Washington looks like they're taking steps. I mean, in past years, sans transfer portal, you think like, well, it's Kalen DeBoer's second year. There's no way that like you can really think about that. Although Bob Stoops did it in his second year. But, most of the time you're like, that's probably – a year or two early, but with the transfer portal, with the way that rosters turn over, it's not unrealistic to say, look, here within a couple years of a head coach coming in, if he's got the right guys, he can contend. Now, Washington's got as tough of a go as anybody will in just getting out of their own league, because that's a league right now that Michael Penix is the, I did a top 5 about Pac-12 quarterbacks, and look, while he was in that list, he wasn't number 1. No. I mean, the Heisman Trophy winner's back. The guy who's won the conference 2 years in a row is back. Bo Nix is back. So they're going to, no matter which way they slalom through the league, going to have a tough go to even get out of the Pac-12 unscathed enough to be in the top 4. Now, if we were talking top 12 in a year, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, probably reasonable, but it's pretty tough to be fourth.
Craig, last time a Pac-12 team won the national title was that amazing team USC had in 2004. And, of course, the next year thought they were going to win it again until Vince Young and Texas Mac Brown and company said no.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be more worried if my quarterback was saying we got no shot at playing for a playoff spot or competing for a national championship. I mean, they only lost 2 games last year, so I don't think it's all that crazy to have high expectations. I mean, I think that's exactly what this season is for. I mean, I don't know that anybody's banking on Baylor going to win the Big 12, but if you go there and talk to those guys, you think they're saying anything but that? Of course not. They all think they can win the Big 12. They all think they can make the playoff. Realistic point of view, they have very little shot of making the playoff or, whatever percentage of making the Big 12. But, if he was playing for, any other number of teams, and maybe that sounds a little crazy and it sounds like just rah-rah, but, I mean, the fact that Washington only lost 2 games last year does lead you to believe that it's entirely possible they could go and put themselves in position to play for a playoff spot or get into the playoff spot of their desire, because they are coming back pretty loaded for Bear, as you mentioned. I mean, getting him back alone is a pretty huge deal. We saw the way their offense went from 2021 to 2022 with him at the helm. I mean, they were super dynamic last season, and I'd expect more of the same this time around. And, just a couple of flubs on that schedule to, UCLA and Arizona State in back-to-back games and both one-score games, and that was all as far as their blemishes go. So besides that little dip in the middle, they were near perfect. And, that's certainly a big reason that team and a lot of the other quarterbacks that have come in are back, why the Pac-12, as much as we, talk about their TV rights and all of that, if there was ever, timing on their side, it's the league that they've got this year as far as getting attention, and he's a big reason why.
In fact, a couple on the chat room, and it's Sam. Washington should have played USC in that Pac-12 title game, but as he mentioned, had a bad loss against Arizona State. The winner may have gone to the college football playoff championship or the semifinals at 12-1 as Pac-12 champions. Roger the Dodger almost, but Washington was 10-2 last year in the regular season. And in Paxton's opinion, it's either Washington or USC for the playoffs. And then asked Scotty B for his reaction. Clint Moses said, "Don't forget about my Beavers at Oregon State." And Scotty B said Oregon State, Oregon are going to be a part of that conversation. So there's a few of you with that. Also, wet blanket, Arizona State, the juggernaut with Dillingham there, right? In his alma mater. I didn't even realize that. I know he was at Arizona State. I didn't realize that's where he also was from. I guess I missed that note back when he took that job.
No, but the Pac-12 is running like the – we were actually talking about it before the show today about Oklahoma State early in the season last year in the Big 12. You thought they were a legit contender, then they lost all their starters. But the league was such that early on in the season, you could tell that going completely undefeated in the league was not really going to be something that's going to be entirely possible. And it was impossible because eventually TCU lost as well in the Big 12 title game. Everybody took a lump. And I do think the Pac-12 – to me, is shaping up to be that league this year that, look, it's going to be – you're not going to have – look, Colorado was your gimme. Like, they're not going to be contending for the conference title in year one, but they're not a gimme anymore, more than likely. Arizona State was just all over the map. They're going to really probably rack up in the transfer portal. Also not going to be a gimme. Arizona's getting better. So you're not going to have too many of those like, okay, we know that this one will be easier. They're really good quarterbacks all over the league. In fact, I think the 2 weakest links are the ones in the Bay Area, and we don't really even know that much about them yet.
All right, thanks for all of you in the chat room today. The text line's open at 254-339-1122. Here's a note again. The fact that Bo Nix decided to come back in Eugene is huge for the Ducks. Don't forget about them. I kind of see them being the toughest resistance to USC winning the Pac-12 title.
Yeah, I mean, how about USC just win it first? I mean, they didn't win it last year. Utah did. How about Utah get mentioned in this whole mix of teams?
They're always kind of overlooked, aren't they?
I mean, that's the team that won it last year. So, yeah, we can list off 7 teams, and that's speaking to the Pac's depth this year. Oregon State. I mean, now that they've kind of established themselves, one of the big gets for Baylor this offseason was A.J. Stewart off that staff, and he's been a nice addition so far, but like what they've got going on up there. And between the hires made this offseason and just what you saw from a lot of the new coaches last year, it's going to be a fun league, an exciting league, and hopefully for their sake, they can take advantage of that and they can actually live up to that hype, and let's see how it works for, some of the new faces adjusting. But, I don't think you could have really added too much more spice than the Pac-12 did this offseason with some of the transfer pickups and just the quarterback filled league that they have now assembled. It's going to be pretty cool to see that.
From Neilio, got no problem with Utah either. Just don't know enough about their roster. Who's left from the 2022 team? They'll be fine. They will be fine. They have their quarterback yet again back. From Stephen Heindel or Hindell, some better Pac-12 North schools like Washington struggle at Arizona State because the weather is a major factor, and Washington isn't accustomed to that if they have to play in Tempe. All right, when we come back, we will hear from Carlos Silva. He covers Texas Tech. Also, that's at 3:25. Also working on Jaden Nunn today. Matt Rule today, Nebraska football coach at 4. We'll drop in on Iowa State with Jared Stansberry at 3:45. Mike Singletary, 5 o'clock. Mac Rhodes today at 4:20. There's a lot to get to today, and Paul's Top 5 returns today. He is back with us here in the studio. One other college football note. Brian Hartline, who had that ATV crash and was sent to a hospital after it, and he tweeted out that he's going to be okay, has been released from the hospital after that. No life-threatening injuries. Very lucky, because we've heard a lot of bad stories about ATV accidents, and he's okay. One of the elite assistant coaches in college football and a great recruiter for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and now is their new offensive coordinator with of course, Ryan Day and company at Ohio State. Blake, 50785. Mike Singletary is the reason I'm a Chicago Bears fan. Blake, thank you very much for the chat. We appreciate your time here on 365 Sports. I'm going to send you a number. Garrett, we have Jaden Nunn ready for us right now. I'm going to share that with you. Paul, get with Paul. I'm sorry. Let me get this up there.
Gone for a day. You completely forgot about it.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things. Out of sight, out of mind. There you go. He's ready for us. He's going to join us here in just 1 second here on 365 Sports. Also, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, who I saw on Saturday evening at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame banquet. He was there because Houston had a couple of representatives inducted, including former Astros great Jose Cruz. He was there along with Robert Brazil, the former Houston Oilers Hall of Famer, now a part of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. We're now joined by Jaden Nunn. He was at Virginia Commonwealth. Today made the commitment to Baylor to play for Scott Drew and company. This is David Smoak, Craig Smoak, and Paul Catalina. Jaden, thank you very much for your time. Has your phone been blowing up, and what has your day been like since the announcement?
My phone has been blowing up since the announcement. As soon as I announced it, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and it worked out. I just got done working out.
You put it on do Not Disturb, and you're just now kind of getting out there, right?
Yeah.
What about the decision with Baylor? Obviously, they need guards. They're looking for guards. What was that conversation like?
It was a good conversation. You know, they showed me not how they want me, how much they want me, but how actually they need me, how it fit in their system. You know, so it had a great conversation with Scott Drew and all the rest of the coaching staff, and it made me feel welcome making this decision as well.
Jaden, let's talk about that fit in the system. This year, they kind of took a little bit of a step back defensively. In the years leading up to that, they've been very good defensively. That is one of the things in your wheelhouse, is your ability to shape games with your defense. Where did your skill on defense come from, and is that one of the things they talked to you most about kind of rebooting their defensive prowess?
Yeah. That defensive ability really started, my freshman year in high school, just playing against older guys and, trying to stop them from scoring. I had a mentor, my freshman year in high school, a guy named Jacavian Lewis, who really put that in my mind, defense wins games, just always lock up. Even not playing good on offense, just always trying to lock up and stop your, opponent from scoring, look better than. That was make winning plays as well.
Jaden, did you have any prior connections or knowledge of the Baylor staff or the Baylor roster? Or when they reached out, was that the first time? And who'd you kind of get to know, and who made you feel comfortable?
Yeah, that was the first time, So I've been watching Baylor, throughout my whole childhood, growing up, I've been watching Baylor basketball. So, I've just seen them start to play harder guard play, Coach Drew really made me feel welcome as well, just contacting everybody that I was connected with. You know, he was willing to do whatever to get me there. When I seen him willing to do whatever, that showed me how much he needed me on his team. So that's when I made the decision.
Jaden, have you talked to any former Baylor players, those who are leaving at graduation? Keontae George is headed to the NBA. Adam Flagler could be headed to the NBA. Obviously, any of those guys, have you had conversations with them?
No, not yet, but I plan on having conversations with them as well. Not yet, though.
When you look at your defense, give us your mentality when somebody crosses midcourt and it's time for you to lock them up.
Mm-hmm. Say it again.
When you are on the defensive end and somebody dribbles, crosses midcourt, give us your thought process of locking them up.
You know, I really try to time their dribbles. You know, I had a lot of experience playing guards. You know, a lot of guards, you know, they do the same dribbles, or, you know, a lot of guards play the same or have the same size of dribble package. So, you know, all you gotta do is, if you time it, you can get a steal. But, you know, I try not to foul as well, but if you time it, you can get a steal for sure.
Virginia Commonwealth has always been known for a very, very in-your-face, aggressive style. You have that. They had that when Shaka Smart was there. Where does that come from?
That really comes from their style of play. When I first got here, you know, that's just how they play, and I loved it. You know, that's why I went to VCU at first. You know, they had a good style of play. That's how I played in high school, and that's how I wanted to play. So that's why I picked VCU. You know, great aggressive style of defense.
So, say you have an off night scoring. Do you feel good if you make sure that the other guy across from you has had a similar night?
Yes, I do feel good. Yes, I love getting stops. That's what I live for. I love making my opponent feel uncomfortable and everything. I love that.
Jaden, where that tenacity, that love of basketball, love of defense, where did all that kind of originate for you?
You know, really started my senior year in high school. Showing it's just like, you know, proving that I, you know, deserve I deserve to play on a bigger platform, and, you know, I feel like I was very underrated. So, you know, I like playing when I played against, you know, higher recruits. So I just showed them that I'm as good as them as well. You
were named to the Atlantic 10 All-Rookie team or All-Freshman team. Your thoughts about that conference? Because in basketball, there's 363 teams. Virginia Commonwealth is known as a team that's going to get to the tournament and usually have some pretty good success. What about the Atlantic 10? Tell us about that conference, the competition, and how it prepares you for Baylor in the Big 12.
The Atlantic 10 is a great conference. It's a good conference as well. You know, there's a lot of good conferences in college basketball. Atlantic 10 is an underrated conference. It's a good conference. A lot of good teams. Dayton, St. Louis, you know, they're very good teams in this conference. You know, I feel like it prepared me well for playing in the Big 12 as well. I want to play in the Big 12 all my life.
How much of Scott Drew and Baylor developing guards for not only as they get better when they're in college on campus, but later on the opportunities to play at the next level, was that a part of the discussion, and did you have that in your decision making?
I did have that in the decision making as well. You know, they had developed great guards. You know, great guards that came through there, and they have a great player development and a plan set for me when I set foot on campus.
How much of the culture of Baylor and what Scott Drew and company have created, that culture of joy, so to speak, kind of also comes into play with you?
You know, that culture is, you know, that's a great culture. Me and my family, you know, of joy, you know, Jesus, others, and yourself, you know, that plays a lot. That played a big role as well. You know, Scott Drew is a Christian, Baylor's a Christian school. You know, me and my family, I grew up in a church as well, so that played a big role in making this decision as well.
All right, so I just did a quick Google search of you to find out something that we weren't going to ask you about. And on your VCU page, they said that you were an accomplished youth bowler. Do you still have those skills?
Yes, I do.
All right, take us out to the lanes, the four of us. How badly are we going to lose to you?
Y'all going to lose pretty badly, really badly. I don't plan on losing.
What's your highest score?
279.
279.
Gosh.
Yeah. Is that just something you still have a chance to go do to unwind, or to just go chill? Or how often do you get a chance to still do that?
I do that on my free time. You know, the guys, you know, I let know people like bowling a lot on my free time. You know, me and my girlfriend or my teammates, we go on a little, you know, we go out, we'll go bowling and stuff like that. So you do that a lot on my free time as well.
Jaden, if you had a split, one on one end, one on the other, and you had to kind of somehow ricochet one off the wall or whatever, do you go for the one on the right to ricochet it, or the one on the left?
The one on the right.
And then you slam it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
279. All right, one more thing. You mentioned that you made the commitment. You turned off your phone or do not disturb. We appreciate you very much for joining our show. What else? What are you going to do now? How quickly do you get to Waco? What's next for you? How much time do you have left at VCU, and maybe something else you're going to do along the way the next 2 or 3 weeks?
On my leave May 5th, I plan on getting to Waco early. I just talked to the coaching staff about that last night. Getting away, if I can get to Waco early, make sure I absolutely can. So I for sure will be at Waco early before June 1st when we got to be on campus.
When you took the do not disturb off, you obviously had some annoying text messages from me. But how many other text messages did you have when you turned it back on?
Around like 400 to 500.
400 to 500.
400 to 500. People happen. That's great. Jaden, I watched highlights of you. How often did you ever watch Davion Mitchell out front playing defense for Baylor?
I watched them a lot. When they had the great success, winning the national title in 2021, I watched them a lot. I watched their team a lot, as well as Jared Butler. I've seen their defensive intensity, and just stopping other guards. They had a great offensive end as well, and they were just able to score the ball efficiently.
Jared Butler, Maceo Teague was phenomenal with his wingspan, and also Davion Mitchell to win the national title, among others. Jaden, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. No problem.
Jaden Nunn, Virginia Commonwealth transfer, now at Baylor, joins us on 365 Sports. Coming up next, anything from that, Carlos Silva on Texas Tech, and then Jared Stansberry on Iowa State.
The more I think of him, you mentioned Davion Mitchell, the more, if you look at his body type and style, I think more of Maceo Teague. Maybe not, I don't know, he's going to develop as the scorer, but Maceo was like that too. Davion could steal a ball and get in transition, which is what, Jared does a lot, but we forget about Maceo and how annoying he was on defense as well.
Well, it's because you couldn't get around him. I mean, he just became a third of the court once they dropped back on defense. And you couldn't really throw the ball much over him either, at least accurately, because of his wingspan. When we come back, we'll have Carlos Silva on Texas Tech as they're wrapping up spring drills. Jared Stansberry, Iowa State wrapping up their spring drills. Matt Rule, Mac Rhodes, Mike Singletary, John McClain, top 5 and more. And this is 365 Sports. So today, played a round of golf this morning at Bear Ridge, and on my way back to my condo, I stopped at Don Humidor. Ashley was there, and Cheyenne was there. I walked into the 48-foot walk-in humidor and said, I want two of these to get myself some cigars for the next couple of 3 weeks or so. Macanudo, Ashton, my father, let's see here, La Fontana, they're fantastic. The Churchill length cigars, I like that when I'm playing a round of golf, I had a couple of them earlier today. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with a 48-foot walk-in humidor for all the cigars you'd ever want, including the elite cigars internationally, around the world, not just the country, and CBD products like Vita Dreams, a gummy that helps you fall asleep, or at least helps you get more sleep and more relaxed, and maybe save 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour or so instead of tossing and turning. They have fresh coffee beans too. Ashley, Cheyenne, and Carol. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center in between Richland Road and Valley Mills in Waco.
Your springtime experience begins during the Jeep Celebration event this month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Save big and get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with total values up to $5,500 on both 2- and 3-row options. Or if that isn't enough, get a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $5,000 in total values. Plus, first responders get an extra $500. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the new custom Jeep of your dreams at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Aaron, it's premium grade East Texas beef, and you're located just outside of Tyler. No hormones, no antibiotics, no steroids, the kind of beef that people want. And then also your label is what catches people's attention as well.
Yes, we have a all-natural, pasture-raised Wagyu beef. It's a USDA label. That means our cattle never spend any time in the feed yard. They go straight from the pasture to the day of harvest, and we oversee the whole process from the beginning of the genetic choices when we make these matings to the time the calves are born, to the feed choices, all the way through when the animals are harvested. So we oversee the whole thing as a family, and we just believe, life's too short to eat average beef, so we offer people a chance to step up their game and try Wagyu beef at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Texas Tech with a lot of momentum the way they ended last season, and the expectations are there, as you can imagine. Year 2, Joey McGuire, shucked the quarterback, came back at the end of the year, looked really good doing it, but they have more than that. We're joined by Carlos Silva, Lubbock Avalanche Journal on 365 Sports. Carlos, are the expectations near an all-time high?
I would think so, and thanks for having me on, guys. But I guess just when you look at what Texas Tech has coming back, you got 10 offensive starters coming back, you have 6 defensive starters coming back. You just have a lot of experience returning, and not only that, but Joey McGuire and his staff, including the recruiting guys that everyone talked about, James Blanchard and some of the other ones like Brian Nance, they're starting to get their feet under them and really kind of find the things that, they need, which last year, obviously, with Tyree Wilson going to the draft, they found a guy in Steve Linton out of Syracuse to hopefully fill up that edge rusher and pass rusher that they need. So I think there's just a lot of high expectations for Texas Tech just based on, Tyler Shuck coming back is certainly important, but you have a lot of weapons for him to utilize in the offense. And not only that, but then the defense, which certainly turned a corner as well, seems to be reloading as well.
How do you think they'll fix their problems on the road that they had, especially early in the season last year? Is that something just the coaching staff and experience will help out with?
Well, the interesting thing is if you look at most of the games minus the one blowout, I mean, you just kind of look at small little mistakes. You look at North Carolina State when they played them, interceptions, fumbles, bad field position. It's just small little things in the fundamentals that I think are somewhat fixable when you look at it from a, after the season perspective. They were in many of their games, and I think that's something to kind of look into as Texas Tech, again, improves on the defensive side and the offensive side, if they're able to, either run the football a little bit better now that their offensive line is shored up with some of the guys that were injured and kind of moving back and forth on the line. Now you've got some other guys that are coming in and, shoring up some spots that you weren't sure of last year. Maybe you run the football better. You milk the clock a lot more. The defense gets more stops or turnovers, or the take three, as Joey McGuire has talked about, with getting turnovers and, turning the momentum in their favor and getting more points or getting the offense a chance to score more points. I think that's something to look at, is just if they're playing more fundamentally sound, which is, I believe, what they did. Yes, Joey says toughness, West Texas stuff, but I think fundamentally, if they're able to play the way that they did last year, not get penalized, I think that's going to be the difference for them when they do play on the road. And I think you're going to see a little bit of a difference from Texas Tech going into this fall.
Well, let's talk about that O-line. How exactly has that O-line changed from last year? You mentioned some injuries, you mentioned attrition, things like that, just inexperience. How has that been addressed so far this offseason?
Well, I think the one big one is getting some guys that are very familiar with Steve Hamby out of Western Kentucky, Rusty Stats. I think he's going to be huge when you put him at the center position, especially when you look at Caleb Rogers at left tackle as well. He comes back and he's going to play very well. And then you get some depth with a Dennis Wilburn, who now can play pretty much anywhere on the line, and then Landon Peterson at depth as well. And then Monroe Mills is going to come back with 10 starts. I think, again, now that you feel like you have some guys with experience and you can, essentially pencil, maybe even use a pen to put some guys in, because last year there were just guys that were going left and right, first year, still trying to figure out, okay, are we going to have these guys for this week or next week? And if we don't necessarily have a guy that may play up to the level that we're needing at the starter position. And I think not only that, but then you saw them improve. So I think that's something else to take into account, is that some of these younger guys like a Landon Peterson or Dennis Wilburn, who, was a walk-on and really kind of stepped up and showed that he could play in the system. I think that's something to really look forward to for the offensive line, is now that you're getting some guys that you feel are going to, solidify those spots. And then if you're able to develop them just like you did last year down the stretch, I know it's cliche, but the sky's the limit for that offensive line going into this season.
Carlos, when the Big 12 schedule finally came out, was there anybody that you wish Texas Tech was playing that you're not? And is there any part of that schedule that probably kind of maybe caught your attention for a double take?
I don't know if there was a double take, but I think playing UCF was kind of interesting. I think it would have been interesting to get Texas Tech to play OU, but I think everyone wanted to play OU in Texas before they left the Big 12. So I think the Red Raider fan base was nice or was smiling when they saw that Texas Tech is going to be the last team that takes on Texas in Austin and on November the 24th. So I think that's certainly something. But I think the way that everything balanced out, I think it looked very well for Texas Tech to be, in that top 3, top 5 conversation, as they kind of would have been last year had they, again, going back to your all's point, on the road, didn't play well, weren't able to, sneak out those victories because they played so well at home. And I think if you sneak out some of those road victories, you're going to get yourself in the Big 12 title chase conversation. So I think that's certainly something. But I think everything else kind of looked pretty good for them. I mean, you play a team in Kansas State that's been very difficult to play them. I think the one interesting one is going to be at BYU. That could be a difficult one when you guys talk about road games. You're going to play a team that's always, experienced, got some, older players there. So you're going to have to essentially be playing your best game on the road at BYU late in October. But I think everything else, kind of shakes out a little bit. You play, a UCF team that is going to be proving itself. You got at Kansas, which is, always tough, but then you still have Kansas. And I think just overall, I think the one big, game that's going to show how important or how, vital this team or players want to make this season is going to be when they host Oregon, especially when Tyler Shuck goes against his former team. I certainly think he'll be wanting to play that game, but I think that's going to be a huge litmus test for the Red Raiders.
Do you think this team has the depth to withstand injuries down the line? And that's because that's also what it takes to win the title.
I think they're a lot deeper than they were last year, which is saying something considering you had 3 quarterbacks play about 3 games last year or start 3 games. Obviously, you don't have one of them in Donovan Smith, who they will likely be playing against on September the 30th when Houston travels to Lubbock. But I think when you look at Baron Morton and Tyler Shuck, you've got 2 guys that have won you some Big 12 games. that have that experience. And not only that, but then you got a guy in Jake Strong, a freshman that could certainly be what Baron Morton was, and same thing with Donovan Smith. Two guys that are, in the system, kind of understand it a little bit and can, really swing the football. So I think that the most important part of it is you've got two guys in Baron Morton and Tyler Shuck who are going to be a lot more less injury prone than they were last year, because they made sure that they did that during the off season to help themselves, be more ready to, take some hits and, make sure that they're not going to put themselves in any danger of being out of the lineup. And going back to what I was talking about with the offensive line and the defense as well, you got some guys not only coming back, but then you've got some younger guys to help out. If you're looking to fill the void of a Tyree Wilson or a Krishan Merriweather at linebacker or a Marquise Waters at defensive back, you've got a Tyler Owens, or you've got, a Tyreek Matthews, or some of these other guys that are kind of playing here looking to, essentially, stand out as they couldn't last year because there was so much competition to actually make the starting lineup last year.
Good Lord, Tyler Owens still has eligibility. I feel like he's been in college.
He does.
God.
He does.
I feel like he's been in college for a long time, but that's just kind of the case all around the country, isn't it? With that COVID year, everybody's got some form of that or another. But, man, Carlos, when we talked to you throughout the season, there was this building excitement, and then, obviously Joey McGuire just being the enthusiastic guy that he is, that caught on quickly, and then you start winning games and it piles up. There's the facilities that are underway. Can you kind of just give us the large scope of sort of where the excitement level for the fan base is right now, and just kind of all the goings on in terms of what's surrounding the football program?
Well, I think you can even go back the year before Joey McGuire, where it was Sonny Cumbie, the former quarterback from Snyder that, stepped up and turned into a scholarship player for Texas Tech. He got Texas Tech its first bowl victory in forever, and he kind of started the momentum. He started the pump jack mentality, and Joey McGuire's just kind of run with it, going into that West Texas tough and being the hardest, toughest, hardworking team. He's really kind of built that, and the fact that you've got two bowl wins back-to-back against two really good teams, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, two teams that are from the SEC. You got two victories there, and that's certainly going to, fire up the fan base. And along with that, you've got a lot of really good recruits that are, at least looking at Texas Tech. I think there's a lot of positive momentum for Texas Tech in that sense from a personnel standpoint. And as you mentioned, from an off-the-field standpoint, they've got a lot of facilities coming in, which is probably the best thing for Texas Tech, because at this point, there's a lot of places that aren't necessarily building things anymore. The arms race was the last, 5 years or so, and Texas Tech kind of waited their time. And now that they're kind of doing that, maybe they will have one of the top facilities in the country when everything is said and done and they're built in the next couple of years. So I think in that sense, they've got that advantage there with their $200 million or $220 million. They just added that for their Southeast End Zone project. But it's just a lot of things that are going well for Texas Tech and Joey McGuire. It's just, again, going back to what you guys were talking about, can you continue that momentum with, I think it's still a very tough schedule that they have, especially, like I said, when you have Oregon at home. How will that happen? If you're able to get a victory over them, then that could potentially be a team that gets you ranked at that point.
All right, Carlos, rapid fire real quickly from a couple of chat questions. One, is Taj Brooks the undisputed running back? I know they don't put up huge numbers rushing, but, man, he sure is a tough kid to bring down.
I think there are several guys there, and I think it's kind of the way that either college football or even NFL football is going. You try and look for 3 or 4 guys that can handle the load, 3 guys that are different. So you look at a Taj Brooks, he's the bowling ball, as Joey McGuire talks about him. Then you've got Cameron Valdez, who's another interesting prospect that has been doing some great things. And, of course, you've got other guys that can also do that as well. But, again, going back to what I was talking about, the offensive line, I think that's going to be the difference for Texas Tech is, can that offensive line create some running lanes for those guys? Because if they are, they've got plenty of talent at the running back position when you look at some of those guys, especially starting with Taj Brooks, who I thought was playing his best ball. And then you look at some of the other guys like, Anquan Willis, a freshman that hopefully can kind of get his feet a little bit wet, and Bryson Donnell, who was injured a lot of last year but showed some sparks in some games when he was able to play at the end. So I think you've got a lot of things to go there, and I know that wasn't rapid, but hopefully that kind of answers that question for that person.
That's okay. Donnell came from Legacy High School in Tyler, a heck of a player. Also, one more thing. We had a question from Kim. He's a Tech fan. Anything on Kosi Eldridge yet? I'm not sure exactly. Is there a status on him or something?
So he is looking to potentially get back. There's an eligibility issue with him because of the way that he had played at junior college. There is a potential that he could come back. So that would be a huge get for Texas Tech, as he would obviously bring some experience as he played last year, one of your top tacklers. But right now they're still in the process. The last time we had spoken to Joey McGuire, that was the word that he had gave is that they're still waiting word on his eligibility status right now.
Carlos, thank you as always. Appreciate your time on Tech. Carlos Silva Jr., Lubbock Avalanche Journal, with us on 365 Sports. We're about to hear from Jared Stansberry, Cyclone fanatic. He'll join us on 365 Sports in just a moment. Appreciate those of you. When I asked about a question you may have for a Texas Tech writer or analyst, then thanks for those of you who actually chimed in and gave us a couple of things. And Big Jack Fit 512, Lubbock is a tough out. It always is. No matter how they're doing, it always is. We're now, again, joined by Jared Stansberry, CycloneFanatic.com. The Cyclones are wrapping up their spring drills, and a team that really, when we discuss this, we don't really know who they are. And thanks for your time, Jared, as always. Do you think Matt Campbell knows who the Cyclones are?
Well, I still think that's just probably part of the process for this group, going into spring practice. There's just a lot of questions still to be answered, and, made some changes on the staff, some significant changes, new offensive coordinator, new offensive line coach. Really, of the 5 guys that they've got on that offensive staff, 4 of them are new. And so I think that's probably been, a big part of the adjustment of just figuring out how, all of those things are going to shake out. But, I think people will be surprised too once they start to watch this Iowa State team next fall. There's a lot of names that that are going to be coming back. Just not guys that maybe are the biggest names. Obviously Xavier Hutchinson's gone from the receiver room, but you bring back a Jalen Knoll who's been a playmaker for Iowa State the last 2 years. You bring back Hunter Deckers at the quarterback spot. You bring back Gyro Brock at the running back spot, and then there's going to be a bunch of names on that defense that are going to be, I think, familiar to people. So trying to figure out kind of the nuts and bolts of it, but I think they've got a good idea of kind of where they're headed here as spring, starts to wrap up here later this week.
What are reasonable expectations for offensive improvement?
Well, I don't think anybody expects them to be Oklahoma, but I think that the hope is that you can be competent enough to, put a good number of points on the board and be consistent. I thought last year the consistency was just what was so sorely missing. And, I think it will be interesting to just see how that offensive line progresses. Ryan Clanton coming in from Northern Iowa has really drawn, rave reviews. And I was really impressed with him listening to him talk last week when he met with the media. And, he's put 2 guys into the NFL out of Northern Iowa in the last couple of years, guys that were really, under recruited that ended up being really good players. Spencer Brown's one of the starting tackles for the Buffalo Bills. Excuse me. And then it just is, I think it's just one of those things where if that offensive line can come, make some big strides forward, then the whole entire offense can make some big strides forward. But, how big of strides can you expect them to make? I think that's hard to judge until, we really get a chance to see some of these guys and see what they look like in action, which, we will on Saturday, first time in 5 or 6 years that Iowa State's going to have a spring game. So that'll be a new dynamic for this group as well.
Why is that? Just wondered.
Just Coach Campbell doesn't like it. He hasn't liked it. I think when things are going really good, it's easy to decide, we're not going to play a spring game and not have anybody complain about it. When you're not playing so good, it's not quite as easy to get away with those things, So I think it was one of those things where sometimes you're told you got to do different stuff than what you want to do. So
gotcha. Yeah, I don't even think I was aware of that. They weren't even doing that. Yeah, that's crazy. But good to know. Jared, when it comes to Hunter Deckers, you mentioned changing over some of the things on the offensive side of the ball. What's just kind of been the talk about, expectations, how they felt about the way he played last year and what they're expecting now as he has a year under his belt and starts to move forward?
Yeah, I think it comes back to that word consistency again. I think we saw flashes of how good Hunter can be, but we saw flashes of the poor things that Hunter can do as well, and how do you get it to be where you're just more even. You have a better expectation of what you're going to get from that guy on a daily basis. And I think a lot of that is, simplification is a word that has come up a lot when talking to Iowa State's offensive staff members and just, hearing what, they're kind of working on as spring has progressed. And it sounds like there's just been a simplification on some level of what they're trying to do and how they want, Hunter to go about doing his job. And, if you can clean up mistakes, turnovers, things like that, continue to grow as a leader, then you've got to feel really comfortable with what that guy's bringing to the table. But, they do have two, a redshirt freshman quarterback and a true freshman quarterback that's, from the state of Iowa, who is an Elite 11 guy that, has drawn, really strong remarks from people within the program. He's going to get pushed. I'm not quite sure that he got pushed very hard last spring, but I think he's going to get pushed pretty hard this offseason in order to keep that role as a starting quarterback.
You mentioned the spring game. People get to go watch it, which is great. How much access is there? Like, for example, Baylor has an open window for 15 minutes early on in practice for TV stations to get some video, but they're not doing anything. They're not going to give you really a lot of looks. The spring game's on Saturday. How much in-practice access, if at all, is there with Iowa State?
Man, you guys might as well call that lining up on a Saturday afternoon, and it's a big game on ABC compared to what we get.
Wow.
We don't even, we haven't gone to practice at all. Like I said, spring game's on Saturday, so that'll be the first time we've been able to see anything. And last year they did some practices at some area high schools that we got to see.
I remember that, yeah.
But then in just a couple years before that, there was nothing. You didn't see anything from spring practice. No open practice at the beginning of the process or anything like that. It's just what you heard from the staff was what you got. And in the past, we've done all of those things in person, obviously meeting with the assistant coaches and stuff like that. Now we do it all on Zoom. And, I'm sure you guys have dealt with some of that stuff in the past. It just isn't the same. It makes spring ball feel like way less of a big deal. I think around here, it just doesn't garner a lot of buzz anymore. And, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, when you don't have any access, it's hard to make it a big deal. So it just is what it is.
It sounds like Matt Campbell and staff have taken what hotels did after COVID. We're not going to clean your room anymore because of your health. No, you're doing that so you don't have to hire people. That seems like a little bit of that to me. I didn't realize he was that cagey about things.
Well, he's not really cagey about things, because when you see him in person, I have a really good relationship with Matt Campbell, so I'm not gonna knock him for any of this kind of stuff. I guess it makes less work for me, but it makes my job harder too, because you've got to work a little bit harder to be able to get some content from this stuff. But they just have not been a very open program the last handful of years, really since COVID. I think COVID gave people an excuse to kind of lock some things down and maybe give the media less access, or things that they had maybe considered previously. It gave people a reason to be able to do some of those things, and now they've just kind of stuck with them, which is kind of unfortunate. And I know there are guys, the guys that have been in the business longer than me, they get more fired up about it, that, the access has been taken away and things like that. But at this point, I think I'm pretty much just used to things being the way that they are. And it just is how much is complaining about it going to do for you, other than making the people in Ames mad at me?
Yeah, you get it. And something like Dave Aranda gives access. It's coordinators and assistant coaches. Once the season stops, we don't have anything. Some other coaches at Baylor have done that with Bryles, obviously with Matt Rule. But everyone has kind of their own where they've come from, but the access for the most part is still really good. So if Iowa State would have scored just this many points in these games, 15 they beat Kansas, 11 they beat Kansas State, 15 they beat Texas Tech. And then, of course, they had the 10-7 win against Iowa, and their offense was maybe worse than Iowa State's. So it's not like the defense has been the problem. The offense was just not very good, and their defensive coordinator's back again. He's been around since, 5 or 6, 7 years. That is the strength of this team and always probably will be?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, even last year they had to replace some guys from really good defenses already, the years before that. And, I mean, their defensive secondary was as good as anybody in the league. Their defensive front with N.J. Anderson and Will McDonald was really strong, could really get after the passer. I expect that group, they might not be as good as they were last year. I think they led the Big 12 in all three major defensive categories with scoring defense, passing, and rushing defense. I don't know if they're going to be that good again, but I think this group is going to be pretty good. They're going to be salty, and they, the interior of the defensive line will be the strength rather than the edges. They're going to be really strong at the cornerback spots with TJ Tampa and Miles Purchase both coming back. Jeremiah Cooper and Bo Freeler will be back at the safety spots, and Malik Burden is another guy that'll be back there. So, they're going to bring a handful of guys back on that defense that are going to give them a chance to be really good. They're going to have to replace two of their three linebackers, but they've recruited really well at that position. I think they feel really good about, kind of the trajectory of that group. And then John Haycock is as good as anybody that I've been around in any sport, just as far as, his communication, the way that he is able to make something out of nothing sometimes, and just be able to formulate a really good defense year in and year out. And I don't think that group will take a major step back. And I think the infusion of youthfulness, I think you look at that staff, like it wasn't an old staff before, but, Nate Shieldhouse is a first-time offensive coordinator. Ryan Clanton's a younger guy that's going to be a Power 5 offensive line coach for the first time. Your running back coach came from an NAIA school. Like, it's going to be a different kind of group that's a little bit fresher. I think it'll be interesting to see how that translates to the field on Saturdays this fall.
Hey, Jared, thank you, man. Look forward to it. Enjoy getting a chance to watch him Saturday. That's Jared Stansberry. He covers Iowa State, CycloneFanatic.com. Coming up next, Nebraska football coach Matt Rule. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress. That's where I go to get all of my dental work. That's where I go to make sure that I'm staying on track. Like a student athlete has to stay on track to progress towards a degree. Dr. Childress kind of put me in that situation, that program, to make up for some years of not neglect, but where I could have done a better job with my dental work. Used to be every time I went to the dentist, I was worried about a tooth having to be pulled. There was a cavity, a most likely root canal, sometimes all of the above. Now I feel really good about where I am, and so does he. And he is elite at what he does. The staff from the front door to everything in between, the hygienists, those who help you when you get there, his assistants, the dentist, they're great. They're absolutely elite, great at what they do. There's that word, Paxton, elite, that I use. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
Dozens of 2023 Buicks are on the lot and priced to move at Richard Carr Buick. A prestigious luxury SUV without the luxury price. Experience the quiet escape and premium drive of a Buick SUV on a test drive today at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get a 2023 Buick Encore GX at 3.9% for 60 months, plus save $1,000 dealer discount or save $3,500 on a 2023 Buick Enclave Avenir in stock. See dealer for details.
Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Matt Rule, head football coach at Nebraska, joins us on 365 Sports. Craig's on his way to Baylor football practice. Paul Catalina here with me, David Smoak. And Coach, it's great to have you, man. We appreciate your time. You seem to be having a renewed enthusiasm. You're at WWE, you're at all these events, and obviously you're trying to coach Nebraska football back to where they used to be. Are you having fun?
Oh, I'm having a great time. This is a great community and a great group of young men. And, it's just fun to be a part of something.
So you are now going through and wrapping up your first transfer portal spring, Coach. What was the most eye-opening thing about all of this to you is, you leave college football, you're gone for a couple years, and you come back and almost all the rules have changed.
Yeah, they've all changed, but as long as they're the same for everybody, so be it. I'm happy for the young men that they have, they have some mobility. They can decide where they want to go. Just like I've picked and decided where I'm going to move. And I've taken some different jobs. Guys have a chance to transfer and find a home. So I think it's great. I think, like anything else, some guys are going to make good decisions. Some guys are going to make bad. But to me, it's always about the adults and the coaches, us making sure that we're doing things the right way.
When you arrived there, you kind of saw eventually, and you kind of studied, obviously, before you took the job. Where are you think, with that roster compared to where it was when you arrived?
I think there were good players here when I got here. I think they ran every game last year, but maybe one or two. And so, we've recruited a lot of guys to come in that'll be here next year. We were able to get a couple young men in the transfer portal to come in for the spring, so we had some early enrollees. But, I think there's a lot of really good players here. And I think when you go back and study the last few years, I had a chance to win a lot of games, and a lot of games, unfortunately, were lost at the very end of the game. And so, what we want to do is very similar to that team we had at Baylor, in 2019. A lot of those games were won for us in the last moments, whether it was TCU or Texas Tech or Iowa State. And, we just want to be a team that executes down the stretch so that we can win the games that unfortunately have eluded us so far.
What is more important in your first spring as the head coach of a new program? Is it the installs and people learning the X and O's, or is it that first wave of building chemistry and them understanding what you and the staff are about?
Yeah, when we came in, we told the guys that we really had 3 objectives for this spring. Number 1 was to build strength and mobility. Corey Campbell, I think, is one of the best strength coaches in the country. And for us, we wanted to get the guys big and strong, but also have them moving. You look back in Nebraska the last couple of years, some injuries. So just doing the best we could to make sure we had really good movement quality. Number 2, we wanted to build a sort of a brotherhood amongst the team. We can't all be best friends. Maybe aren't all going to hang out, but we can certainly appreciate each other and appreciate the price that everyone pays. And so we try to do a lot of things to build a sense of brotherhood and belonging. And then we wanted to, teach our process. When we get to the fall, we need everyone to know exactly what's expected. And so from the way we practice, the way we do things, it's not like everyone else does it. So, we need to make sure that everyone gets that. Part of that is the X's and O's. So I think building that sense of brotherhood is important, just like making sure that we all understand, hey, what exactly does it mean to practice, at Husker speed and do the things that we're asking them to do.
Matt, there's a lot of tradition there, and it was built from Bob Devaney to Tom Osborne to Frank Solich, and I know you're bringing Solich back, and I think that's amazing to reach back in the past because it's almost like they forgot about it. How important was that? Frank Solich coming back to where he played, and then also he coached, and was pretty darn good when he was coaching there as a head coach.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm very grateful to Coach Solich that he's going to come back. I think, there's been some, tumultuous times, over the last, however many years. And so for us to have this opportunity to have this unifying event where hopefully Coach Solich coming back really sends a message to everybody. And I think about that, has to do with Frank, his willingness to come back and be here. I can tell you how grateful I am that he's doing it, because I think it'll really help our fan base, our former players, and hopefully our current players as well.
Do you have a triple option install in there for him?
Oh yeah, we'll have a little something special for Coach. Maybe a little fullback belly, something that'll make his heart happy.
You're having a fullback one-day camp. That kind of gives me goosebumps, right?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, Smoak. I mean, we had a fullback at Temple. I came to Baylor, and everyone was scared to death that I was going to have a fullback full time. But Kobe Buller did a good job. Those guys did a good job. We had Jalen Hurd back there in the I formation every now and then and smash someone to get a yard or two. So, one of the things about being at Nebraska is we want to be versatile on offense. We have to play some games when it's windy. I mean, we are at practice. Some days we have to practice and it's 30-mile-an-hour winds. We're going to have to be able to run the ball and throw the ball, and there's a way to win every game, and we want to have the fullback in the offense. Not saying that's what we're going to do all the time, but we have the ability to get there.
What was more integral, in your opinion, to Nebraska's success when it was? Was it the systems that they had, or the fact that people were just knew that when Nebraska came there or you went to Lincoln, that you were going to hurt no matter what happened when you walked out of that stadium?
Yeah, I'd say all of it, man. I think the thing that I've done, and I know guys know me, I like to talk about process. I think when you talk to Coach Solich, it was 42 years of excellence, from Bob Devaney to Tom Osborne to Frank Solich, and they left a blueprint. And so I think it's following that. I went to the Johnny Rogers' Jet Awards the other night, and I'm sitting there, wait, there's Eric Crouch. Wait, there's Mike Rozier. Wait, there's Damon Benning. Wait, there's, whoever else. I mean, college football Hall of Famers, Trev Alberts. I mean, first-round draft picks, 2 Heisman Trophy Award winners. So there were great players with a great system, both on offense and defense, a tremendous sense of pride, tremendous sense of physicality. And I think the way that they practiced here was elite. There weren't a lot of guys standing around. Everyone was getting reps. And so that's the way I was trained at Penn State. That's what we're doing now. And, I think the best thing you could do as a coach is study the people who've had success there before you got there. And we're doing that here at Nebraska, just like we did at Baylor and just like we tried to do at Temple.
Matt, with the new rules, the transfer portal, how often of an 85-man scholarship roster, is there kind of what you think might be an average of a roster turnover your first year, or what might be the average now going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you guys remember that first year at at Baylor, everyone thought that, oh my gosh, we just went 1-11, the whole team was going to transfer. I think you asked me that, and I think one guy left, maybe two. I hope we treat players well, and I hope that means that players don't want to be there. I mean, we're tough, we coach hard, but most of these guys want to be great, and so you know what? There's going to be some guys who at every team, right? Who maybe they're homesick, maybe they're not going to get on the field, maybe I don't know. I want everyone to be happy, and I want everyone to be where they're supposed to be. So I can't worry about who transfers in, who transfers out. I can worry about who transfers in. I can't worry about who transfers out, but I can make sure that we have a place that guys don't want to transfer from. And I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be one of our advantages, because we spend a lot of time with our guys, and I think most of our guys are pretty happy being here.
June 5th in Belton, Texas, a combined camp with Mary Hardin Baylor football. Where did that come about, and your thoughts about that one?
Well, we want to recruit Texas. I think this year we signed the most guys at Nebraska coming out of Texas since I think it was like 2008 maybe. We have a direct flight to Houston already from Lincoln. We now have direct flights starting this summer to Austin and one to Dallas. So we wanted to come down there. Obviously, Belton and Temple and Waco and Hewitt and all those places are very special to me and special to our coaches. So coming down there and putting on a camp, giving kids in Texas a chance to come work with us. We're going down the next day and down to Houston and doing another camp. So it's an opportunity for us to get down there, see people we care about, coach kids, and maybe enjoy a little Texas sunshine.
Yeah, well, Jeff Hume's daughter is on staff. You got Susan Elza. We've talked about that. And, of course, Garrett McGuire, among others. Tom Osborne spoke at your coach's clinic. I know you know that he contacted Grant Taft right before they were going to make the hire, and Grant Taft gave you some glowing, what would you say, a recommendation. What has Tom Osborne meant to you, even though you don't see him a lot, but being a part of that clinic? And is that kind of him accepting you into the family?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Osborne's been amazing. When I got the job, I called him, to make sure he was okay with it. He was great. Had a chance to talk to him a couple times on the phone. Spent about an hour with him just talking football at the Outland Awards. It came to our clinic. Did a talk with him and Trev. Just talking about football. And I guess, it's amazing to me. Sometimes coaches want to do things their own way. You follow a coach who's successful and you don't want to do it their way. Like, I'm so simple, man. It's like, hey, I remember I used to go to Andy Altoff. I'd say, hey, can you tell me how Coach Briles did this? Tell me about this practice. And even though my system was so much different than Art's, I mean, I was always studying how they practiced this or what they did, and anything I could steal, I did, because obviously Coach Briles did it at a high level. Coach Taft, the same thing, talking to the guys. Hey, Coach Taft came and talked to the team. And so having a chance to talk to Coach Solich, having a chance to talk to Coach Osborne, it's not about how we won before. It's about how do you win at Nebraska. And it's just like a cheat sheet, man. So I've just been unbelievably grateful to him that he's been willing to do that. Ron Brown is with us, who was coach for Coach Osborne, and he's in there every day. I mean, Eric Crouch was at practice today, and he's talking to me about the quarterback's footwork on one of the, the option type read plays we have. I mean, who else should I listen to other than Eric Crouch, man? I don't care if I'm right now. I'd like to be right come the season. And to me, that's about getting as much football information as we can from anybody who loves the game.
Matt, I know you're getting ready to meet with your players. I know you got to go. What will you tell them today?
Well, I tell them today, that's a great question. Well, you always get me with the questions, bro. You know what? I think the biggest message that we have right now, and it's not a popular message, is we can't look for the end being in sight, man. Like, we've got to absolutely grind. And sometimes what happens is we grind for a while, then we just get tired of it, right? Like, I don't know how many diets I've started, man. Like, I'm going to work out today. Like, we get tired of it. But if you want to be successful in football, if you want to be a champion, you've just got to do the right thing longer than everybody else. And so that's the message. Like, we're talented, we're a good team, physically, but are we going to do the right things when it matters next fall? And if we want to do them next fall when it matters without thinking, we have to do them right now. And that's winning culture, man. And, if you think back to our 3 years at Baylor, I always believe teams go through three phases. You have to eliminate losing football. Then you start playing winning football. And then eventually you want to play championship football. And we were 1-11. We were certainly playing losing football. The next year we were 7-6. We played winning football.
Mm-hmm.
And the third year, while we didn't put the trophy, the Big 12 championship game didn't go our way. We played a lot of championship football. And Charlie Brewer took the ball at the -1 yard line and drove down to take the lead. And, Chops knocked a 51-yarder or 53-yarder through against TCU to send it to overtime. We made championship plays and championship moments, but that was a continuum. And my guys here, I'm like, hey guys, we don't have to start off on the losing football thing. We can start off by playing winning football and chasing championship football. And that's what wakes me up every day.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, Matt. I know you have a busy schedule, WWE and everything else at Nebraska. Thanks for your time, Coach. We glad to have you on the show.
Hey, I just want to thank you guys for when we come down to do that clinic in Belton. I want to thank Smoak for the tab at George's being on you, brother. Thanks for taking care of us. See you guys.
Well, it's written in stone now.
He and his staff, they came into town. Wasn't Evan Cooper, Garrett McGuire, Phil Snow dropped by, the former Temple and Baylor and long time just throughout the NFL and college football defensive coordinator, and had a chance to sit around the table. Paul, you were there that night. That was a lot of fun, just sitting down, relaxing, talking. I was going to ask him how many Monster drinks he had today, but I didn't want to have him hang up on me too early. That's always still one of the great stories.
God.
I was very fortunate to have a chance to sit down with him through 1-11, 7-6.
Fortunate that we got to talk to him today based on what happened that day.
Yeah, so
even still.
I'm in the office with him. He's got a can of Monster Energy drink on his desk. And I've been known to accidentally have a few of them. And so...
How many did you have today?
I've had one.
Okay.
I'm really trying to cut back. And I don't even need to admit that I had one. So we're at the presser, which is across the street in the bank, which is an area where the athletes eat. And his wife, Julie's there. She used to go to the press conferences, just sit out and relax. And I walk in, and what did I say to her?
You said... just got done talking to Matt.
Yeah.
Is he like me? Does he have a couple of those Monsters every day? And she goes, what are you talking about?
She goes, Monsters?
And Monsters? And he goes, yeah, I mean, he had one on his desk. And then she got really quiet and then said, well, he's not supposed to. And then got up. Clearly went to his office or called him.
No, she texted him.
Yeah. And she got up for a second, wasn't there, came back and sat down. Rule walks in the door about 5 or so minutes later. I mean, he was on his way in, and he's like, thanks a lot, Smokey. Way to be a buddy.
He didn't say it that loud. He said, thanks, Smoke. And I did not realize, he goes, I can't believe, and what I had done is and a doctor instructed him, no more. And well, then you know what I did the next time I saw him the following Monday is I brought him like a case of them. I mean, that's a man law, right? You just take care of it.
No, I mean, you're making things worse.
I'm not saying he drank it. He did hug me. I mean, he did do that. Some of the stories from behind the scenes, thanks to Matt Rule. Matt Rhodes, Baylor Director of Athletics, next on 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza lovers get it. 5 locations in the Waco area. Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Woodway, and Robinson. Bob Mock is the owner of all 5. Bob's been in the pizza business for a long, long time. I used to work in the pizza business back when I was a senior in high school and when I'd come back during the summers for college and make some pretty good money. I was a delivery guy. My oldest brother ran a store, and Bob Mock's done all of that. From top to bottom of where he is now, where he now owns 5 Marco's Pizza, fastest growing pizza company in the United States, and they're adding all of the time. There might be one near you, and if there is, you can go online, marcos.com, and order takeout, delivery. They have codes for special pizzas. They used to have the pepperoni magnifico. Now there's the sausage magnifico, and now there's the sausage pepperoni magnifico available. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or
where your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, with us. Craig is at practice over where Mac Rhodes is on the campus at Baylor University. Paul Catalina and David Smoak with Mac. And thanks for your time as always, Mac. I had a question for you. We've been kind of chewing up on the Big 12, the distribution, the extension, and all that could equal 31.7, et cetera. So can you try to help me piece together what men's basketball brings in? There's the tournament money. But what else? Are they a part of that 31.7? Is that a Tier 3 deal? So how do you get revenue from men's basketball outside of the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So, that 31.7, 31.6 number that you've been talking about, that's solely TV media partner revenue. That doesn't include other revenues. And so other revenues, just as an FYI, would be CFP money. So you would add that to it. It would be Sugar Bowl, other bowl games. Okay. You would add the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So the units that we receive, to that 31.6. And then you've got some smaller amounts of revenue that are ticket sales, and ticket sales would be like from the Big 12 football championship game. It would be from the men's and women's basketball Big 12 tournaments. And then you'd have some related corporate sponsorship. And then there's some NCAA pass-through monies. Okay. So men's basketball brings revenue really in two primary ways. It brings revenue in terms of the NCAA men's basketball tournament and those TV units. That's in addition to the 31.6. And then the other primary way it brings revenue is through the TV media contracts. And so, when we begin the new TV contract, that will be obviously through ESPN and Fox. Right now, the current TV deal, even though we've got both TV media partners, ESPN and Fox is not televising any men's basketball games, and so ESPN is primarily responsible for the TV revenue for men's basketball. Of that TV contract, of that 31.6, probably 85% of it is attributed to football, and 15% is attributed to men's basketball. So those are the numbers and the way it breaks down.
If you have 10,000 at the Farrell Center and eventually 7,500 at the Pavilion, will you, when you're a home team, do you get 100% of the ticket revenue? I'm sure the Big 12 may get some too. Or if you're in Austin, do they get 100%, or Lubbock? How does that work on ticket or attendance as far as ticket sales?
Yeah, so great question. So now, I'm really going to confuse the both of you. Well, I probably won't confuse Paul, but probably you. But all right, so we talked about men's basketball revenues two different ways through the conference. Okay, the third and fourth ways we derive revenue from our men's basketball program is through our own ticket sales. So that's both season and single game ticket sales to our home events, to our home basketball games, and then there's always you have to be a donor at a certain level for certain seats, and so there's donation monies involved as well. But to answer your question specifically, if it's our event, our home event in the Farrell Center, in the Pavilion, we keep for conference games, we keep, and for all games, and I'll tell you why I maybe hesitated a little bit, but we keep all of the revenue, okay? Off of the season ticket sale and off the single game ticket sales for those games. Non-conference games, depending upon, who it is, we will end up having to buy a couple of those games. So yes, we keep all of the ticket sale revenue, but at the end of the day, we're having to write a check back to that institution for them to come play at our place.
Okay.
So I hope all of that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a chunk of money. It's a big chunk of money. Thank you. That helped me break it down. I think a lot of people, even on our message boards on Sikkim365.com, sometimes we get that a little bit. It's just very complicated, but thanks for kind of breaking it down for us. Paul?
Mac, we are in this is the second time you've had the transfer portal windows for football, as opposed to where it was just, whenever I've decided I'm in the transfer portal, I'm in the transfer portal. How do you feel that this is working, even though it's only the second one? Is this a step in I don't want to say in the right direction, because we don't know where direction anything's going to go, but in a manageable direction?
Yeah, I think it's better, okay? And I think, where it lands and how much better still probably remains to be seen a little bit. Again, not to be repetitive, but, the whole intersection of transfer portal, it's hard not to talk about transfer portal without talking about name, image, and likeness, because they're very much intertwined. But I think these windows really, curtail some of the chaos. There's now these defined times, and it's not throughout the entire year that you're having to deal with it and manage rosters, et cetera. And so I do think it's helpful. You're starting to see, because some of the spring games, right, were played this past Saturday, so spring practice has ended. So you're starting to see players, football student athletes enter the portal. You're going to have probably another proliferation after this weekend, because I think a lot of other spring practices like ours will end here on Saturday. So you'll see some additional players, and I'm not really aware of how many other spring practices, or if any, are past this particular Saturday. But you'll start to see some more enter the portal again after this Saturday.
How much, you mentioned NIL, how much do you think before there is guardrails, or you can make rules that make sense to all the parties and that are fair for all the parties, will there have to be the market figuring itself out from what is clearly recruiting inducement, and then people who have given that money not seeing return on investment, and then kind of figuring out where, more it's maybe about roster retention or staying at a school, as opposed to getting there and making it to where the people who are paying these NIL dollars get their money, the schools get the best out of it, and the players, most of all, are treated fairly and in an efficient way.
Yeah, I mean, I think I followed that. So I would say that, in terms of the pendulum swinging back, and, you have to remember this pendulum was way over to the left, maybe so to speak, right? And it was just waiting to be let loose. And this build up, all of this talk and conversation about name, image, and likeness, and then all of a sudden, July 1, 2021, boom, you let go of the ball, and it swings all the way over to the right. And, I would probably tell you it's still way over to the right, and maybe it's starting to come back down a little bit. You hear some certainly conversation about, there's been some examples like Florida, the quarterback there, right, where there's been some monies, some name, image, and likeness monies promised, and it's not come through. And, you're starting to hear some of that conversation, amongst student athletes, amongst agents of student athletes. I think, you are starting to potentially see or hear of, individuals given to collectives that maybe, they feel like after just 1 year it wasn't worth their, quote unquote investment. But, the reality right now, what we're dealing with, and we're right in this period of time with both men's and women's basketball, and the market, particularly for men's basketball, is high. You haven't seen that pendulum come back that much to the middle yet. What happens in the future? I'm not quite sure, because do we have federal legislation that comes in and puts some guardrails in terms of how it works, and transparency and a clearinghouse, and then also obviously, in addition to preempting all of the state laws, and everybody's operating from the same place. So I would tell you that the pendulum is still far right in terms of and those are not political terms, but far right in terms of it hasn't swung back to the middle much, at least not much at all at this point in time.
If you polled, let's say, if all the ADs, I mean, you're a part of the conventions, you're a part of athletic directors, et cetera. But if you were to just randomly say, okay, give me 40 guys, 40 men or women, ADs, how many of them are on a percentage? It doesn't even have to be full, but a percentage like NIL, and yet again know that it was just time, and like you said, the dam burst, but they just wish they could find a way to curtail it where they could get your arms around it?
Yeah, there's probably, there's probably, 10 to 15 institutions that are in a different place than anybody else in terms of name, image, and likeness, and their collective, right? And it's schools that have huge, large donor bases. We have 2 or 3 of them here within the state of Texas, and you have another 12 to 13 throughout the country, and then you have this next level group that's like Baylor, like we're in that next level group, and I would say that when you look at those two groups, I would tell you that even the ones that have the most money, 9 out of 10 would say this is chaos. It's not what was intended. It's not good necessarily. I think we automatically think it's good because student athletes are being able to be compensated for name, image, likeness, but I'm not sure that we're really setting student athletes up for success. And so the amount of time that it consumes, like my world and what I do on a daily basis, I've got a lot of things that consumes my time, but right now, name, image, and likeness, it's crazy. I mean, I can't go probably an hour without having a conversation about name, image, and likeness. And so, I'll give you another example. I was talking to an agent of head coaches, and works with a lot of men's basketball coaches, and his clients are miserable having to deal with this. The minute the season is over, and even during the season, unfortunately, because there's some tampering going on, you're having to recruit your own student athletes. You're having to re-recruit them. You're then having to figure out, how much money does collective have? What are we going to be able to do, right? Obviously, the institutions cannot provide any of these name, image, and likeness, payments, contracts, etc. But and I've said it before. What this has turned into is a pay-for-play system. It's broke. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be corrected. And unfortunately, the NCAA and decided to not move forward and drop all of its parameters right before the July 1, 2021, and that's really put all of us in a really, really hard spot.
Mac Rhodes, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us. 365 Sports.
Mac, I saw that the last beam has gone up in the Foster Pavilion, which I'm sure every step along the way is another, as you've got a hard start here in 2024 of conference season. And what's it like to get one more step out of the way there?
Yeah, I mean, it's every day it's a step forward, and I was actually over there today, and talking to the project manager, and then certainly a couple representatives from Austin Commercial. But they asked me, well, what do you think about progress? And I immediately said, yeah, it doesn't really matter what I think about progress. What do you guys think about progress? We've got 8 more months before we want to play our first basketball game, and they were certainly confident in terms of where they are with the timeline, and the project is going along quite well, and it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to see it go up, and progress is probably going to look a little bit slower now because all the structural steel's in, the roof, all the concrete has been poured, and so much of the work will now be inside. And so, probably look maybe to all of us looking in from the outside a little bit slower, but walking in there, and it is busy, and it is quite an operation, and just grateful and thankful to all of the workers. So many of them, if not all of them, live here in Waco, and this truly is a community project, and just grateful to all of them for all of their hard work and what they're doing each and every day. So,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I do want to get back to name, image, and likeness on one thing, but go ahead.
Finish that comment. That'd be great about whatever you want to get back to with NIL.
Well, I just think with name, image, and likeness, right? It's a process that we've got to be involved in, and it's really important. And I'm grateful to all of the donors that have participated and have worked with GXG Exchange or in some other fashion. But it's something that even though I say it's broken, we Baylor have to participate in. We're going to field competitive rosters. We're going to have to do it, and so we are. And it's we don't have the advantage that a lot of other schools around us do because of the size of our institution, the size of our alumni base. But grateful to those that have participated, and we're going to have to continue to find, and not we the institution, because we can't be involved in it, but ask our Baylor family to participate in name, image, and likeness opportunities.
If a donor was to call you, and Baylor's got, I was told this, I learned this quickly when I said, I don't know how you keep up with it financially, the facilities, the arms race, and all that, and obviously up and down your campus with the new ops building, what you're doing with the new welcome center, and now, of course, the pavilion. I was told don't ever underestimate the money that Baylor can come up with. But if a donor was to call you, can they call you and say, hey, I want to donate X amount of money to NIL? Are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, they could, but I would certainly direct them, obviously, to GXG Exchange, or shows them some certainly other opportunities, or talk to them about our other opportunities, but Sikkim 365 and our marketplace and some other opportunities, but primarily GXG Exchange. And the NCAA rules changed. Like when this first started, we really couldn't talk about it. We couldn't be part of it. Now, quote unquote, we, meaning the athletic department, can assist. I can talk about it. I can, ask people to participate. Scott can, Dave can, Nikki can, our other head coaches can. Now, we can't advocate for any particular program. So Scott can't advocate. If he were to talk to a donor about it, he can't advocate for that name, image, and likeness monies for GXG Exchange or any other opportunity for it to be designated to men's basketball. So it's changed a little bit. I think that change, I can't remember if it was October and November, that we're able to at least talk about it and assist. But again, clear, very, very clear. We cannot provide any of the monies for name, image, and likeness.
What would be and maybe this is how it is, but like you can when kids can get meet agents before they go pro, and you can bring them in and they can meet and talk to them. What would be the problem with schools being able to like give their seal of approval of this has passed muster here, as far as this is a group that you should talk to? You're not advocating for anybody, but you have vetted them and made sure that you don't have situations where somebody's like, hey, I've got a bunch of money for you here. They don't get it, or it's just an organization that doesn't really even exist.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, I think you're asking, the whole idea of agents now in this name, image, and likeness space, and agents is probably a loose term when it comes to the name, image, and likeness. I think there's some, real agents in the space that are representing student athletes, and do a good job and have great integrity. And then there are some people that are agents or call themselves agents, and they're just speaking on behalf of the student athlete. And, your student athlete may be 22 years old, and they've got a friend or somebody that's 27 years old speaking on their behalf. And so you try to have obviously conversation with student athletes about who they surround themselves with and who they're selecting. You've got some agents that when you're thinking about name, image, and likeness opportunity, it's not necessarily about the highest dollar amount. It's about fit. It's about that coaching staff, how they're gonna certainly help develop you as a student athlete, specifically a player, but also as a person. And then you have, other agents that's all it's about is the highest dollar, the highest earning potential. You've got people out there in this space, that will tell you that, hey, X school is promised, by my student athlete that I represent X amount of dollars. And that's, you end up finding out that's not true. And so again, I just go back to, it's broken and it needs to be fixed, but, that cannot stop us or prevent us, Baylor and we have to, and again, want to be really careful. We've got to have a mechanism for name, image, and likeness. We can't do it, but we've got to have a mechanism for that to be in place, for us to have the ability to field competitive rosters. And, so we have to have our Baylor family individuals participate. And it's a lot that we've asked our Baylor family to participate in. There's not a lot of schools that have $311 million worth of capital projects going on. And then, name, image, and likeness. And, we've been, really, I think, proactive in terms of, keeping our good people. So, we talk about people are our greatest asset, retaining our head coaches and retaining our assistant coaches, unless an assistant's going to go off to be a head coach. So, there's been a lot that we've had to manage and handle, and in order for us to be and continue to be nationally relevant, and we're going to continue to really work hard at it.
Yeah, again, like I said, there's always going to be money there, but you got a lot going on. Texas Tech's got theirs going, a lot of capital, and obviously Oklahoma State and others are doing it. It's an arms race. It never seems to end. Mac, thank you very much. Has a donor ever told you, we'll get it, we'll be fine, even if they have almost been sucked dry by all the money that they may have donated for other facilities and other things on campus?
That's not a very good description, sucked to dry.
No, I thought the same thing, Mac.
If the lemon,
certainly not trying to do that with
the
anybody.
lemon has been squeezed. There's nothing left in the lemon. Oh God.
We have a great Baylor fan. We've got great donors. We really do, and we certainly have donors that absolutely say, hey, we're going to find a way to get this done. It's I think it's really important for Baylor athletics, to be really successful, nationally relevant, because let's not lose focus. Why are we doing all of this, right? We're doing this to prepare young people for life. We want them to move on from Baylor and just be really, really successful. But we're also doing it right so for our Christian platform. And if we can be nationally competitive, then right or wrong, you have this platform, and then we can impact others by our actions and the way we live for Christ and for His glory, and so that's the ultimate. That's why we're doing this, and so that's why it's important for us to stay nationally relevant and competitive. Is to be able to witness to people and to minister to people.
Mac, thank you very much. We appreciate you putting up with my
I'm sorry for my rusticated co-host here.
I know. Whatever the hell that means. Thank you, Mac. We see you at the spring game. We'll see you at the spring game Saturday. All right.
Yeah.
It's Mac Rhodes, Director of Athletics. You know how I am. There are times things just happen. But what's wrong with that term? I mean,
most of the time it's not really a bad thing. But
squeezed every ounce out of the lemon or an orange. Oh God. Earlier I put that deal up on the chat room when someone mentioned that we've just got all these guests, and it's been great, and we appreciate it. We've got a guest, Mike Singletary, Hall of Famer in every way. He's speaking at a Lunch for Legends on Friday at Baylor, at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, and had a chance to interview him late yesterday evening, and he'll be on with us at 5. And somebody said, man, you guys got this thing going. It's on fire. And I put up the comment on the chat room. I guess nobody had ever heard me say that stick your head in a tank of gasoline and light it with a match. Let's go. And I did that on Twitter one time and got suspended for threatening either helping people do that. Seriously, come on, Twitter.
Well, it's a weird. Well,
or I was in a bad place and going to kill myself.
Yeah, Twitter's a weird.
I got suspended for stick your head in a tank of gasoline and light it with a match.
Twitter's a weird place. It's even weirder now.
No,
and
it's
it continues
not. You just
to get
don't
weirder.
like Elon. It's always been weird.
I don't.
It's always
been weird. But like all of a sudden. I'm following, and I don't I see these tweets about here's how to make money in crypto or something like that. And I look and I'm like, why am I seeing this? It's not even under promoted. And it says I'm following this finance bro.
Well, you know what? You should be arrested for that.
No, they should be arrested for making me follow finance bros. You are leading to the
crypto. You're part of the crypto problem.
No,
you're following somebody who's doing something wrong.
I would never have done that. I don't even
Apparently you did. You're following
I
him.
consider myself a pretty intelligent person, and I can tell you very little about crypto other than it seems to me to be fake money. Yeah. So, that's what my opinion is on it, and I would never follow somebody on it because I've never. If you walked up to me on the street and said, "What do you think about crypto?" I'd be like, Superman's dog? He's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, I texted you the other day. I said, why do we have a dog in the left-hand corner? I thought I had been
Elon's crypto.
And that's fine. I'm okay with it. I'm cool with him. Yeah, I know not everybody is, but I am. He's never done anything to me that I know of. The 365 Sports, the ghost of Butch Henry returned to the pitching wedge. May Butch Henry enjoy every moment looking down on us. Of course, the late Butch Henry, who hosted talk radio in Waco forever, passed away during the COVID year, right? It was during the COVID year. Let's see. I think Paul Catalina was about to fall out of his chair laughing.
Look, when you said it, I was like,
You're talking about the gasoline?
No, the dry
Yeah,
thing.
I know. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I guess that someone said I'm being pornographic. No, I'm not. It's kind of gross that I said that. Neilio, Roger the Dodger said, I think that the Twitter thought that be sane, stick your head in a tank of gasoline and light it with a match was actually asking somebody to do that.
No,
and that was promoting violence and or I was close to maybe killing myself, which would do that. If you stuck your head in the tank of gasoline and light it with a match, it would be gone.
But you wanted to do it in a fun way.
Yeah, I did that when I was at the NCAA men's basketball tournament in Indianapolis. Is when I was, okay. When Catalina starts laughing, so do I.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I had to. I mean, I was trying. Look, and believe me, I've gotten better over the years because there are times where you break and you can't control yourself, and then you have to do the rest of a segment before you go to break, and then it's just bad. It's funny, but it's bad content. It's on the air wherever you see it. Yeah. It just doesn't.
As Katie Rader, who is unlike you, friendly. Hey, this is a podcast, quite a bit freer, more freedom than radio, no question about it.
Yeah.
And at BU and I are going back and forth, it's a pet peeve. Like people who don't on the highway who are in the left lane, and they're going too slow, and they won't get over even if there's nobody to the right, or they go slow even if there are other people on the right instead of finding a way to file in. Right? I got a pet peeve about that. People who don't put grocery carts into the area in which they leave for you to put in grocery carts. We've discussed that before.
The only time it's acceptable, and most of these people would ask, is if you are somehow physically unable to do it. Like you're barely able to get your cart
in the right lane?
No, to the cart.
Oh,
thing.
the cart.
Now, the right lane thing, coming back from Fort Worth yesterday, I experienced in a way of, look, man, if there are 7 trucks with like big, gigantic things like rock trucks, and you're in the left lane, we have all agreed to the social contract that even if there's 30 of us in the left lane, we are all getting past the rock trucks because we don't want our windshields dinged. And if you've decided I'm going to be like this guy who was in a Hyundai Elantra yesterday, he was Hyundai.
Or it's one of those vans.
Yeah, he was Hyundai Elantra. That's what I'm talking about. It's a nice car. He had a nice car. And I'm like, come on, Hyundai Elantra, let's go. There's 4 big gravel trucks.
Scared to death.
They're 4 big gravel trucks. I'm like, look, man, the speed limit's 75 on this road. It's really good here in Texas. We've got to get past these 4, and you and I are stuck between 2 and 3 here.
Yep.
They're
not.
Just go.
They're not going to go any faster, and they're petrified that they're going to, like a truck's going to move into the lane.
I'm not asking him to go 88. I'm asking him to go 75 and easily pass these trucks that cannot physically move that fast.
No, and you got to wait for a slight incline, and even then they're scared to get by them. Oh, yes, Paxton, that creates road rage. BU, juice ain't worth the squeeze. Also, Sandra Green saying that at BU's in the doghouse. No, what my point was is we have Mac roads out of 52 weeks a year, 45 times. He might try to get away a couple of times, although people don't want him to because every time he does, all hell breaks loose. Or he's at Big 12 Media Days in early May, won't be a part of the show. And yes, he does use a lot. And I see this, like we just had him talk about a bunch of really great topics, and he gave us really good answers. And then, yes, he uses a lot. And then someone might, and I know it's just kind of being flippant, but damn. I hope people appreciate the access because you don't get that anywhere else. And I'm not saying it's because of us, but he is on with us and will answer anything. I mean, when he first arrived in August of 2016, you don't think there weren't tough things to question or questions for him to answer? And he always did. And his candor, and I've told this story, and I know we got a break. He was in a administrative meeting, right? What's wrong?
I was just telling
Were you just doing a wave or something?
No, I was.
He was in an administrative meeting, and they were discussing something that they were about to do, and they were going to release it at some point in the next few days, but he weren't ready to do it. And he said, "Okay, we're not going to. No one say anything." He comes on our show. I had not been given much of a tip. I just happened to ask a question about whatever they were about to discuss or not release yet. He swore to his staff, the senior staff. No one said anything. He comes on the show. I ask him the question. He answers it just like he said no one should say anything. He goes back into the administrative meeting after the 15 or 20 minutes with us, and they're all like, you just said it. And Mac said this. He goes, I can't, if they ask, I can't not tell them. He's done that before. All right, when we come back, we're doing the Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Mike Singletary will speak Friday in the Lunch with a Legend at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. You can go to BaylorBears.com for more information or contact the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Mike Singletary, next on 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, new location on the east part of I-35 in Waco. It's Loop 340 and Highway 6. Bigger, better, faster, and stronger steel metal pipe. They have it. Their showroom is 2,500 square feet. Their distribution time has been cut way down, and it was always really good because customer service is something that means a lot. You hope to every business, but sometimes that doesn't always work out. They've been in business since 1943, which to me is just incredible. That in itself is a great endorsement. But they now have a bigger area for people where you can park, where you can go pick up product, the different level, or not levels, but the different lengths of the product they have. And so you don't have to get the product and go somewhere else to have somebody cut it. They have it for you. They're amazing at what they do. The Pioneer Boys, again, it's a brand new location. It opened up at the end of last year, and it is just zooming along, and they are getting more product, different lengths of product, and getting people their product sooner and also more efficiently. Just another way for that elite customer service. Pioneer Steel and Pipe since 1943, pioneerboys.com.
Richard Carr is loaded with GMC Sierra trucks. Make your best deal in years. Step up to premium grade GMC Sierra and save thousands at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get 2.9% financing and $3,000 in savings on most new 2023 GMC Sierra SLE, SLT 1500s in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to richardcarr.com and drive home your new GMC Sierra today. See dealer for details.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run, and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
On Friday, lunch with the legend, Mike Singletary, the Hall of Fame great linebacker of Baylor, will be in Waco. The Baylor spring game is on Saturday, and Mike Singletary joins me, David Smoak, on 365 Sports. What's it like for you when you come back to Baylor, whenever you do?
Well, it's always, first, I'm amazed by the change. I mean, there's so many new buildings, and it's so beautiful. And at the same time, I always go back by the dorm that used to be the dorm I stayed in. And it's just a lot of fond memories. And every time I get a chance to go back, I always drive around to a couple of places that just remind me of, you know, the first place I went when I got there, where I met my wife, all those kinds of things. It's always a great feeling.
Mike, obviously, there'll be Q&A questions. John Morris involved as he does so many events for Baylor, the voice of Baylor athletics. Do you have anything in particular that you like to discuss, a message that you might have this week?
You know, I really don't. I'm going to let him kind of drive the message because, you know, there's so many directions that you could go in at Baylor. So many memories, so many things that have transpired through the years. So anything's game.
How much do you appreciate, or how impressed are you that despite constant upheaval or coaching changes from Art Briles and how that ended, Jim Grobe interim for a year, Matt Rule comes in and builds it back up, and he's gone, then Dave Aranda deals with COVID and he builds them back up. Although last year was a disappointing year, how have they been able to always seem to get up off the canvas?
Well, I think you know, they've done a good job in their coaching searches and really sought out people that really reflect what they're trying to find. And I think that's the difference.
How much would it have meant to you, Mike, if that opportunity had ever been able to be something you had to coach your alma mater?
You know, I put it this way. You know, I've been asked that question several times. And for me, it always comes down to, I believe in life that if, no matter what I think about it, if it were supposed to be, because of the God that we serve, I believe it would have been.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, since it didn't happen, you know, you move on and you continue to look at where God is putting you, and you continue to grow. And so I look at it and I think, I would like to think, wow, that would have really been special. Maybe it wouldn't have been. Maybe it would have been a bad match. I don't know. But, you know, I just look at the guys that have been there. They've done a good job. And, you know, I think that's pretty much the way I look at it.
Things have changed, the way the game is played, the way the game's officiated, the rules. You now have name, image, and likeness. You have the transfer portal. It has changed, Mike, dramatically from the days when you played and were an All-American. Do you like college football today?
Yes, I like college football. Do I like, the portal? Do I like the changes? I just think that it has shifted. College football has shifted from kind of the coaches and the universities had the edge. And I think today, the players have the edge. I really do. And I think because of that, some of it's good, but I think, some of it's bad. There are good coaches out there that really want to coach hard and really want to build young men up that don't have fathers but really want to invest in those players. And it's difficult to do that because it's hard to learn. It's hard for a player to learn without being tested. And so if I'm a young man and you test me and I don't have a dad and I don't really know what that means, well, it's going to be misconstrued. I think I would have left Baylor after my second week. Corky Nelson lit into me like I don't know what. And I'm like, this guy's a racist. He doesn't like me. He hates me. I can't wait to get out of here. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't. And that was the best thing for me. It was, if it had not been for Corky Nelson, you wouldn't be talking to me. I just think that that's the unfortunate part about today's game is there's so many kids that they haven't learned, they haven't lived enough to understand the difference between someone chastising you and trying to help you become a man and someone that just does not like you picking on you. There's a big difference.
So with that, the way you said that and the player you were and how you were brought up, could you coach today?
Well, like I said, if that's something that would have been in the cards, then you find a way to do it. Maybe I don't coach long, but you find a way. You find a way to do it, and you have to find those players. I got to go out and I got to find some guys that work on a farm or dad's in construction. Or they're used to hard work. They're maybe they're not the 5-star players, but if they're not afraid of work, maybe they become 5-star players. So, but toughness is a key component of a great team. And if you can build that in the culture of a team, you got a chance.
Mike, what would have happened? This is hypothetical, but I know your father wasn't real thrilled with, sports growing up. And eventually, and you can clarify that or correct me if I'm wrong, but eventually said, okay, you can go play football. You ever think back on if that would not have been available? Would someone still have found Mike Singletary, the football player?
Well, actually, it was my mom. My dad kind of played into it as well. But when my dad left my mom, then basically it was her decision. He kind of put his blessings on it. Mm-hmm. It was my mom that I had to convince. And so my dad, being a Pentecostal pastor, in the Pentecostal religion, there is no sports. That's an evil thing. So I think looking back on it, thankfully I had the chance to go out and play and prove myself and go through all of the trial and error that you go through in order to be the kind of player you need to be. But if you're not on the field, chances are no one's going to see you.
We had a guy today on who represents a company that has helmets, the Schutt helmet, Vice's helmet, which is one that's kind of new, and they developed a new helmet for quarterbacks for when their head's not hit by another player, but when it hits the ground, the collision of the ground, like Tua dealt with at Miami last year, and others have as well. It made me think when I was talking to him, how many helmets? Do you know how many helmets you ever cracked in your football career?
Well, I know at least 10 at Baylor. And then probably, 4 or 5 in high school. And maybe 6 or 7 in the pros.
So 20 or so, yeah. And you played, and when you hit somebody, you were there for a reason. Do you ever stop for a second and thank God, because you seem to have been able to play the game that was so physical, so violent, all of that, and some people have struggled, health, their head, whatever, that you seem to have everything you should have, all your faculties?
Well, I credit everything to the Lord, the God that we serve. I am very, very thankful that, He always watched over me. But the other thing is I really practice tackling correctly and, not putting my head down, making myself vulnerable, making sure that I hit with my face, making sure that my eyes were wide open. I could see what I was hitting, which gives your brain a chance to respond and brace itself. But, being able to put my neck in my shoulders and all of those little things that, you got to do over and over again and help them to become a habit so that when you're tackling on the field and you're going 100 miles an hour full speed and you crash, well, your body is always in position to make sure you're prepared to absorb that blow. Or the force that comes from that blow, you're delivering the blow. But it is so amazing when you talk to athletes about this is how you hit. You just don't go out there and just run into somebody and train wreck. There is a technique involved in tackling. And if you follow that technique, you have a really good chance of not getting hurt or hurting your person.
When you were a player, and you don't just walk into a locker room, whether you're a freshman coming into Baylor or a rookie in the NFL, but people gravitate to those who are leaders, who do it the right way. How did you know when teammates were all in? How did you, know who someone was real and not just talk?
I really don't think I thought about it a lot. You just make sure that you're real. You just make sure that I think that leadership and all of those things are always caught. Coaching to me is a lot like parenting. When kids see that your heart is in it, you're not just out there yelling at people, bossing people around, trying to hurt people. You are talking to people from your experience. You're talking to people to try and help them get better. And players know the difference. And I think that as long as people are always looking at you, whether you think they are or not. And I was always quiet. I always conducted myself in a way that I was always respectful and tried to do the right thing. And if I said something, it needed to be said. If otherwise, I was pretty quiet. And I think people gravitate towards someone who is authentic, someone who is respectful of themselves first, then others, and someone who's doing more than they're talking, and allowing their actions to speak for them. I think those are the people that people gravitate towards.
You were a part of that TV series Beyond the Edge. In fact, I think that might have been the last time we had you on the show, and you told us stories about trying to go to the bathroom, Ray Lewis at night, and all this. Is that one of the more petrifying, scariest? How much did that test you? As someone who is Mike Singletary, the Pro Football Hall of Fame linebacker with the eyes and the fearless type of play, how much did that test you?
Well, let me put it this way. When you got to go to the bathroom at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't care how big my eyes got, and you had things looking at you with red eyes, you don't know what they are, and they're making noises. It's pretty. It will test everything that you have. How bad do you want to go to the bathroom? So yeah, it was quite interesting. But the great thing about it is, I was thankful that I tested myself the way I would have never ever been able to test myself in civilization. Being out there really allowed me to realize how much I really trusted God, and with my life and with everything in me to get back home. So very thankful for that experience.
Mike, one more thing. Two more questions. The 85 Bears, still as dominant as anybody that's ever won the Super Bowl. That team, the characters, the personalities, the coaches, the players, the Hall of Famers. How often do you still get a chance to rekindle that with any of those former players?
Oh, at least 2 or 3 times a year, if not more. I mean, I see Hampton, and Hampton and I always talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Baylor Bears, and of course Steve McMichael, bless his heart, he's kind of ailing right now, but Steve and I always used to talk about that. Now is just prayers for him, and some of the other players, that. The Old Southwest Conference was a heck of a conference. I hate to get rid of it, but there are just a lot of stories that when I see guys, old teammates, love sitting down and talking about those times. So there are about 4 or 5 guys that we always have a lot to talk about.
Was there ever a more perfect quarterback for that team than Jim McMahon?
There is no other quarterback that could have played for Coach Ditka. Jim McMahon and Coach Ditka were a match made in heaven. Coach Ditka, I mean, he tried to intimidate Jim, and it just didn't happen. And Jim would just look at him and go, hey, go sit down. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this, and this is what we're doing. The players loved it. I mean, everybody loved it because they couldn't do it. Jim was the only one that could get away with it. Anybody else would have been choked. So, but Jim was he was one of the players that I really appreciated who he was. Yes, he was crazy, but man, he did a lot for our offense. Really did.
How are the children?
Children are doing great. Fantastic. Thanks for asking.
I know you love that, a part of your life. Mike Singletary, Friday, 11:30 until 1 at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, lunch with a legend, and not many could ever be a part of that same sentence in Baylor history or Bears history than Mike Singletary. Mike, it's great to have you. Good luck with the event. Thank you so much for spending time with me.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Mike Singletary, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr's 24th anniversary sales event continues on now with big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, and also pre-owned vehicles as well, but in particular special savings on GMC Sierra and Buick Envision SUVs. Right now, dozens of Sierra trucks are on the lot. You can get 2.9% financing on new 2023 GMC Sierras. You can save $3,000 for qualified buyers on 2023 GMC Sierra SLT or SLE 1500 models. If you're looking for an SUV that's luxurious but doesn't have a luxurious price tag, they've got the smooth and quiet ride of the 23 Buick Encores, Envisions, or Enclaves. Right now, qualified buyers can get low financing plus save $2,500 on Buick Enclave Premium or $3,500 on Buick Enclave Avenir. So a lot of options to check out over at the dealership, and that includes the pre-owned cars and trucks as well, many of them under $20,000, affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has quality vehicles ready to drive today all over the lot, whether new or pre-owned, and whether or not you're even looking for a vehicle. Maybe you've got a new car, maybe you've got a pre-owned car. No matter if you're just looking to get whatever vehicle you're riding in worked on and put into tip-top shape, perhaps you want to check out their award-winning service department standing by to keep you on the road. Go to richardcarr.com to see service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable service. In business for 24 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. Keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. But when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at gallerysports.com and sportsradio610.com.
Hall of Fame columnist John McClain with us on 365 Sports, and he's with us on Tuesdays. I saw John Saturday evening at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame induction at the base at the Extraco Events Center. John, thanks for your time. Paul, Craig, and Smokey. Man, that was a hell of an event. That's a heck of a class that was inducted. I know Jose Cruz and then also Robert Brazil meant a lot to you, but what a night.
It was the most distinct Houston flavor of any class in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame history. Cynthia Potter, the great diver, 3 Olympics, would have been 4, an analyst. I just found out she was Mattress Mac's first wife. That was a long time ago. And I didn't know it, or I would have asked her about it. And then Carla Guidry Parkway, she was from Houston, both the women from Houston. Adrian Peterson lives here. Only Scott Drew and Priest Holmes don't have a Houston connection. Scott, of course, was hilarious as always. And I thought the Bay Center, I didn't even know what it was. And then somebody said it's Coliseum. I said, what Coliseum? Coliseum where Baylor used to play. I said, you're kidding me. That's right across the street where I grew up. We used to walk across Lake Air and go to all the games. It was fabulous. And the people at the Hall of Fame, like Jay Black, Krista Martin, Genesis Moncada, they and the other staffers did a tremendous job. Brad Sham always does a great job as the master of ceremony. It's so much fun to see so many former Oilers there to support Robert Brazil, but seeing so many friends. And I brought a friend who hadn't been to that, and I was talking to Jim Haller and his wife Judy. Jim Haller was the first person that I ever did a story on. I was at MCC, and I took a class in mass communications because people said it was easy. And I was a terrible student at Richfield. It took me like 5 years to get out. And so I took this class, and the head of journalism, when I found out you get in ball games for free, I never had any idea. I went to her to talk to her about it, and she said, "Did you write for your school paper?" I said, "Oh, yes, ma'am, I did." She said, "Well, good." She said, "Our new basketball coach is over to Jim. Why don't you go interview him and do a story for the next edition of the Highland Herald, which came out once a week?" So I couldn't say. I didn't even know how to type. I'd never interviewed anybody. I'd never written anything except book reports. So I went over and interviewed Jim. That's how far back Jim Haller and I go, and it was great seeing so many people there.
John, we are just over a week out of the NFL draft, and there's still some big, questions out there. But now that Jalen Hurts has signed his big deal, do you think that that's good or bad for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens?
It is a great deal for Jalen Hurts, but it's not worth the paper it's written on, $255 million. It's all about guarantees, what you get the first 3 years. And it's not as big as a couple, but it just shows you if you have an agent, you're not greedy and unrealistic, you can get by on $179 million guaranteed. And it hurts his age. In 4 years, he's going to be doing another deal. Quarterbacks today are playing into their late 30s. That's why Lamar Jackson was foolish not to take that guaranteed deal. He admitted he was offered $40 million a year for 3 years. Had he taken that deal and had them put in a stipulation he would not be franchised when it was up, he'd be unrestricted at 29. If he played great, was MVP again, they could sign him to an extension in 2 years. He has made an egregious error not having an agent. And Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are going to be next. Whoever signs next is going to get less than the other one. And I think in about another year, we'll probably see the Chiefs tear up Patrick Mahomes' contract. That will be the second fully guaranteed contract to Deshaun Watson.
John, just your thoughts on Jalen Hurts' rise in general. I mean, the guy has an obvious chip on his shoulder. There's all the talk about, getting benched in the national championship game and stuff like that. But second-round pick just a couple years back after a great career at Alabama and Oklahoma, and now in this position. Just what are your thoughts on the Eagles going all in with him and just his quick rise?
Craig, in 2021, when Deshaun Watson was held out, and they started fielding offers from other teams, and he had a no-trade clause, one of the first teams to call was Philadelphia. That shows you what they thought of Jalen Hurts. They don't say anything about that now. Watson had his people instruct the Eagles he was not interested in coming to Philadelphia, and how lucky are they? How lucky is he? Because we thought at the time they're going to try to include Jalen Hurts in this trade, and he hadn't done anything to be worthy of being traded in a Deshaun Watson deal. And he's worked hard. He deserves everything he's gotten. And I'm being from Houston, and I first heard about him when he was at Channelview High School. Happy for him. His dad, his father is a high school coach, or was a high school coach. It's just great for him because he's a great guy, and he's earned it the hard way. Being benched at Alabama, going to Oklahoma, being a second-round pick, just shows you don't have to be a high number one pick to make out like a bandit.
No, it's a great story. It seems to be just a humble and yet, like Craig said, a chip on his shoulder, an amazing competitor. His story has been fantastic. So the Astros are off to a little bit of a shaky start. They'll be fine. Altuve's out. They've got some players out. But was there any kind of murmur on what and how good the Rangers at least have started the season, or is that just like a fly on their back?
The Astros were 6-7 3 years for the third consecutive year. Now, when they started slow in the past, they had Jose Altuve and Michael Brantley. Altuve is supposed to be back in June. The general manager, Dana Brown, said today that he might be back sooner. That's the same Dana Brown that was optimistic in spring training about signing Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Framber Valdez, and Kyle Tucker to extensions, and none of them have signed. He has had a habit in his first year of getting people fired up and then nothing happening. I hope he's right. But Mauricio Dubon, who they acquired from the Giants last year, is hitting 340 something, and we're wondering when he'll come back down to earth. And they've had some other guys. Corey Julks, who was a University of Houston player, who's bounced around their minor leagues after being drafted, after coming to the franchise in 17. He's been really good in left field. And so they've gotten some other performances. Hunter Brown, their rookie pitcher, has been outstanding. 2-0 with his last two starts. So the pitching hasn't been as great as we thought it would be with the guys who come back, but they still should have the best bullpen in baseball, even though their closer Ryan Presley's hurt right now, and even though Alex Bregman is not hitting the way he should, and Jose Abreu, their new acquisition, finally hit a ball hard. It wasn't a single last night. He had been a big disappointment, but it turns out he started slow every year with the White Sox. So it's no time to panic. I tell you, if I'm the Rangers, what I'm worried about, Jacob deGrom's already hurt.
Yeah, there was pretty good news today, though. I thought I saw something flash on my timeline that he's going to be okay. I when that story popped, you're like, uh-oh, there he is again. But apparently it doesn't appear as if he's going to miss any time, because that did seem like – because he is obviously very much injury-prone.
You keep – and a major injuries, too. And anytime you see anything happen with him, you worry because he's missed so much time. He's a great pitcher. When he's healthy, they invested a lot of money gambling that he can stay healthy, which he was unable to do his last couple of years with the Mets. But, you know, as long as he's in that rotation, they're capable of beating anybody. And they won that series over the Astros, who won the series, the Silver Boot, for the last 6 years.
John, do you think that – I know there's a new bid on the Commanders. I want to get to this before I forget. But do you think that the Josh Harris one will be the ultimate one that they take?
Yes, it's for $6.05 billion. Somehow Daniel Snyder's coaxed an extra $50 million out of them. And that new bid by the former North Carolina basketball player, I haven't seen anything that said how he made his money. And now there's a story that he's backed by Saudi money. And I don't think that the NFL owners will be like the live golfers and go for the blood money. I just don't see that.
John, how are you feeling about the Texans sitting at number 2 right now?
I would have thought up until last week, Craig, they're taking a quarterback, probably C.J. Stroud. Now there's stories locally and nationally. They've soured on Stroud, and they're going to take Will Anderson Jr. or Tyree Wilson. They need an edge rusher desperately. D'Amico Ryans, former defensive coordinator, I thought they'd take a quarterback at 2, an edge rusher at 12, a wide receiver at 33, and then they would be getting off to a great start in the draft at filling 3 of their biggest needs. And if they want one of those 2 guys, you know, Tyree Wilson's been injured and hasn't been able to work out. And he didn't do at Texas Tech what Will Anderson Jr. did at Alabama. So you're kind of gambling on his potential. And if you do that with the 2nd overall pick, man, oh man, you know, he better be better than Jadeveon Clowney, who never had 10 sacks as the 1st overall pick. They've had the 1st overall pick 3 times. David Carr, Mario Williams, and Jadeveon Clowney. They were all drafted 1st overall. None finished their career with the Texans. And I'd rather see Will Anderson Jr. if they were not going to take a quarterback. And if they get out of the 1st round without taking a quarterback, people here, and I say fans, media, they're going to be livid. They're going to be crushed. And all that goodwill they built up with D'Amico Ryans, that's going to evaporate. So that's why in the last mock draft, I haven't taken Hendon Hooker at 12. His stock's going up. And if they don't take a quarterback, we immediately, on Friday, we're going to start saying they need to go after Lamar Jackson.
Oh, okay. That would be interesting. No, hey, Adrian Peterson was one of those inducted on Saturday evening. He was very humble, had a great crowd that was there with him. He actually played, I thought later, I didn't realize he played after the 2020 season. Is he going to be a first ballot guy?
Absolutely. He's one of the greatest running backs in history. He lives in Houston. And I don't know any reason Adrian Peterson wouldn't make it on the first ballot.
14,918 yards and 120 touchdowns in his career. He was a beast at every level. It was cool. Some of the people that were there, Earl, who said to me one time that Robert Brazile was the best player he ever played with, and then also Larry Durker, among others. That was going back to that banquet. That was so much fun, John.
It was fun. They put on a great show. The food was great. I think it was catered by George's, Sammy Soprano, with food always fabulous. And I thought the people at the base, the people that got the food out and took care of you, they were so good, and they were friendly, and they were upbeat. It just was a spectacular program. I've been talking about it on all my shows across the state, and I tweeted like crazy about it. It was so much fun. It's going to be really hard, David, for us to come up with a class that's as good or better than that one. It's a challenge, and I hope we can meet it.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. Every year in June we meet to do that. They do need to work on the speaker system. They need to work on the audio. It seems to be a little bit hollow and a little bit distant. Did you agree?
Well, some of them I was sitting on the third row and I could hear, and others I couldn't. Most of the time I was just BSing with people around me and eating. And I did not drink anything but iced tea. And I did a lot of stuff. I had written a column on Robert Brazile about it. And then I did a lot of stuff with Jose Cruz, Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan, another one from Houston. Mm-hmm. Michael was a big hit. And he's so comfortable in front of a microphone, and he should be, because he spends most of his life in front of a microphone and cameras.
He is a rock star now. He is like OJ became that way. There are some others, but as far as pro sports athletes that became broadcasters, and he has gone to where he's almost his own company in a way.
Well, yeah, he does it. Well, he only does a little bit of football. That's only
he
a
does
little bit of
the Fox show. Is that right? The pregame show.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's on Fox. He's on the USFL. He's on Good Morning America or whatever. Some people don't even realize he played football, and they think, "Oh, that guy from the morning show," and he was on with what's her name in the morning that Ryan Seacrest is on with now?
Kelly Ripa.
Kelly Ripa, he was on with her. So he gets a certain audience there. Then he goes Good Morning America. That's another kind of audience. And he capitalized on New York post-career better than any athlete in history. Frank Gifford was another one, but he didn't transcend sports into the rest of the media world like Strahan does. And Strahan's come a long way with that gap in his teeth, because that's his trademark, has been forever. And he's a really funny guy. He's a good guy. He right off the bat said Waco was beautiful, I think. And I think there were two of them that said Waco was beautiful. And it was, he knows how to captivate an audience, and he did a tremendous job. I got to sit next to a guy, Steve Fallon, who did the voiceovers and the introduction. And when Robert Brazile came on, right before he had his introductory videos, I leaned over to Steve and I said, "You're about to get blown out of the base." And he's like, "Huh? What?" And then they showed me introducing Brazile, and he said, "You're right. I got blown out of the base." I said, "It wasn't the first time I've blown you out going back to high school, and it won't be the last."
John, thank you very much. Baylor men's basketball.
Thank you, guys. Sick 'em.
You too, sick 'em. Baylor men's basketball picking up Jaden Nunn. We were going to mention that to him because he'd asked me about it. About how are they going to replenish their roster, and they did. Boston College transfer cornerback Scotty B put this up. Paul mentioned this in a break. Josh DeBerry has committed to A&M, and Bobby Taylor has entered the transfer portal. There's Bobby Taylor, they officially entering the transfer portal. 4 years left of eligibility. A hell of a player in high school. Great lineage, great bloodlines. But now he's on his way out.
Well, and look, they're that 2022 class that they had is, the number one class is, there's not a lot of, there's a lot of them left. They had a lot of signees, but there's a good chunk of them just not staying at A&M. And that's commonplace now around the country, but A&M's number one recruiting class didn't have a whole lot of staying power.
No, it did not, but didn't prevent them from getting a hell of a lot of mileage out of it and a S-ton of articles and headlines and hype and tweets and engagement and everything else that, people are looking for, I guess, these days. But, yeah, it's one of those things where, on signing day, I've just kind of learned over the years, get excited about the guys you have, but realize, too, they eventually got to produce. You don't win it on signing day, and I think this state as a whole has probably won more signing days, certainly, than they won national championships. In the time that recruiting has been so popular. Just the one from Texas, but multiple number one classes, counting them, and then A&M last year. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's great to sign guys, but you got to develop them, you got to hold on to them, you got to appease them. Probably you got to do a lot of different things, and it's not surprising that necessarily in the NIL era that A&M's class fell apart, but it is a little bit surprising it's fallen apart to this extent this quickly. That's a good number of guys gone from that roster just from that one class alone. So that's just kind of strange and unfortunate, but lessons will be learned, or I'm sure have been learned, and maybe they take a different approach as a result, although I don't know what that would be.
I don't know if Max does this or who does it now with theathletic.com or other particular outlets, but one of my favorite articles that would come out right before National Signing Day in the newspaper, in the Dallas Morning News, which is a great newspaper. It's nothing compared to what it was as far as the sports page, because it used to just be, it was as good as anybody. But they used to go and look back on the recruiting National Signing Days and who was where, the number, the top 30, whatever, what teams were ranked as high as they were, and then where were those players 4 or 5 years later. And it's eye-opening. Even those who were winning. It's a war of attrition. And now, Mac Rhodes mentioned it. Matt Rule mentioned it. It is just staggering, the changes in the college football game. And you have to re-recruit your own roster, like many have said, as much as you have to go get new ones to come in.
Yeah, and apparently on his Instagram story, he posted something about, and don't think I wanted to leave. So I don't know what kind of social media is always so ominous. Everything's like a freaking riddle to have to figure out. Figure out my secret. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's the coaches pushing him out or what. But yeah, that's interesting. And 4-star guy just signed just a year ago. That I don't think I wanted to leave is interesting, though. But, yeah, we'll see in a couple years where that class stands and what they've won, and then maybe they rewrite history again and, 5 of them turn out to be key figures in a national title run or something like that. But so far, the early returns haven't been up to what you would hope for.
And we'll talk about A&M in a second in the top 5 because they are part of it. But, yeah, I do think one of the things that has to – they've got all the makings right now of, this tension bomb that's ready to pop. If you listen to Jimbo Fisher, he doesn't sound like a relaxed coach right now that's confident in what's about to happen. You hear the guys look, go across their biggest rival in the SEC right now is not Alabama, it's LSU. Okay, go ask Brian Kelly how he feels right now, and he is not a ball of knots about everything.
He was a year ago.
But he will tell you, he can talk about. Yeah, he was. But Jimbo's been at this a while now.
No, Jimbo was always, in my opinion, but I don't know about what he was like at Florida State, maybe at the end, but I always thought he was, even when he arrived at A&M, it was a little bit uptight to me.
Yeah, and so that doesn't go well when things aren't going. You're already a high-strung person, and you're...
Well, when we had Jared Stansbury on, Craig, you had to leave. He was talking about Iowa State. Matt Campbell, they've never had the spring game open. Is that right?
They've never had a spring game.
Never had a spring game.
And they
all
don't
of a
have
sudden,
open practices.
They've had a little bit of rough, choppy waters.
Well, they haven't had a spring game for quite so whatever it was that he said.
And then now all of a sudden, he's going to have a spring game. And maybe you lose a little bit of that grip. You could say, no, we're not doing this. And now he's trying to maybe open up. Maybe he's a little bit too uptight. It doesn't mean he hadn't coached well, but they've had a little bit of a slippage.
Well, and maybe it's Bobby Taylor's fault.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's the thing too, is we automatically like Jimbo's uptight, and I'm not talking about y'all in general, but I know Jimbo will catch flack for this from some people on social media, and they'll have their fun, and that's all part of the deal. But who's to say he's not doing the right thing in this instance or in other instances? I don't know the story, like I said, and then Bobby Taylor says not that he wanted to leave, so figure it out, but. I think that maybe, in this case, maybe it was a move for the better or a punishment thing or something along those lines. But, yeah, Jimbo definitely has that uptight sort of feel about him, and it will be a very interesting year because now we're beyond the point of, like, the buyout's impossible. They can't possibly touch that. Now we've reached a point where it's like, oh, we could pay that. Like, if we really wanted to, we could pay that. And Texas is coming in, and I don't care what anybody says about little brother, big brother, however they view each other and all that. Best believe they're not going to be wanting to limp into, next year in the SEC and feeling like they've got a lame duck as a head coach or they're not going in the right direction. Maybe that's just me being foolish, but I think that all those things add up. And then depending on what the record is this year, that will obviously have a big say in it. But, yeah, I mean, you're at the point now you're bringing in Bobby Petrino, you're putting a lot of combustible elements together and hoping that it explodes in the right way, but we'll see.
There will be people at A&M who pretend like Texas coming in is not going to affect their decision-making. It affected their decision-making on the way out. Why would it not on the way in?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, like, that was the whole decision was Texas.
I went to a couple of A&M writers who cover the Aggies. And this story pops up from Awful Announcing, and this is apparently yesterday or the day before. Jimbo Fisher blasts multiple outlets. Y'all give me flack. I can't give you flack.
Yeah, we got to be careful with that, though, because I saw differing versions on how that actually was taken by some people. Like that some people, believe it or not, might have taken that kind of and blown it up a little bit.
He might have been joking.
Yeah, but like the way he talks, though, it's probably hard to tell for everybody, and so I'm just saying, like, I don't know the full. I just saw the back and forth of like, why are y'all blowing that up, and then his reaction wasn't that bad, and it was like that whole thing. So I don't know if it was the way like you just reading it off is portrayed, if that makes sense. To be fair,
I went and watched it because when I read it, it reminded me of something that Art Briles did one time that I thought was not the best.
You mean
so if he's wrong, he's wrong.
No,
I'm glad you saw it.
Not at A&M. It was a signing day press conference, and he went to take a fan question first because there were fans in the press conference, which those two things should be separate events.
Well, especially with him.
Yeah. And so he went to take a fan question first, and then Heath Nielsen, the SID at the time, said, oh, no, we have to do the media first. He's like, well, I only see one media here that's John Werner. And all the rest of us were like, hey, well, I don't know if you were like, it was hard to tell if he was kidding or not.
The women's basketball coach used to do the same thing about
and
that.
So it was weird. So I went and watched it. I think he was kidding, and I will compare it. No, most people won't get this because they don't know him, but Baylor had a baseball coach here named Steve Smith, who was pretty successful. Steve ran afoul of people because he made some mistakes along the way for sure, but a lot of times he would say things and he has such a dry way of talking. Yeah. You didn't realize he was actually kidding. And then when you get kind of in the mud with somebody on that, then you're like, look, I'm tired of this. And I think that's where he and the university clashed. But he was like that too. And I think Jimbo might be a little like that, but he's so just
it was very awkward. There's no denying that.
Tightly wound, yeah.
Yeah, and so I do think that you can kind of read into it how you want to, not trying to say that, his answer wasn't weird or, a little abrupt or whatever. But I'm just saying that I did see that. Hold on, wait a second. It wasn't like what is, because you know how it is. Sometimes like certain people get a reputation. So now it's like everybody's looking for Jimbo to explode, right? Everybody's looking for that moment where it's all just going to start cratering. And I think everybody's sort of waiting for that. And so they're going to hop onto things, but there's no denying that. Yeah, you can definitely take him.
Tight.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Suzanne Halliburton, who wrote for the Austin American Statesman forever, Jimbo gave a couple of winks and dadgums while he was kidding with Brent Zerneman from the Houston Chronicle, blasting Hardly. Don't create a narrative that's not there. So there you are with that. Now, Garrett, put up one note, and we go to top 5. Here is, and this just came out with Bobby Taylor entering the portal, on 3, the most transfers during the offseason.
SEC.
A&M, 30. Yeah, this is like Arkansas, 28, Arizona State, and Oregon each from the Pac-12 with 25. And I don't know if, how close anyone is. I would think there's probably a couple, 10 more that are in 20 and above. But Texas A&M right there and Arkansas both. And sometimes the transfer portal, you want them going. And it might be good, and sometimes they're just never getting enough, and sometimes they don't feel good about where they are.
Yeah, I guess with Arkansas, Sam Pittman's feeling it a little bit, and they lose Kendall Briles, so that's interesting. A&M, obviously, they've been well documented of their turnover. Oregon, I guess I haven't paid that much attention to them. I'm not sure why they've had so much turnover. Do y'all have any idea?
I think it's just year 2 of
Cristobal turning the roster. That makes sense.
Who's the coach?
Not Cristobal.
Of Dan Lanning.
Yeah, Lanning.
Year 2, you've got guys. They had a guy, a defensive tackle. I think Baylor's interested in. I saw that.
Gotcha.
Look, he's a second teamer now because the new class. So those guys who were the last Cristobal class are probably I don't think we fit in here.
Dillingham at ASU, that just makes sense because it's very clear what he's doing. He's completely flipping that roster. A&M, it's clear that theirs is just kind of a bit of a mess all over the place for why guys are gone for one reason or another. So, yeah, that's what I was wondering about Oregon.
Yeah, Scotty and others saying Arizona State makes sense. The new coach.
Yeah.
Barry Crawford, I thought OSU had a lot of transfers. Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they're probably top 10-ish, I would think.
I will tell you, though, the difference in my opinion, between Oklahoma and A&M, and we definitely need to take a break here, but Oklahoma State is not about their quantity. It's about who it actually is. So, it seems like when Oklahoma State lose one, it's Spencer Sanders or Dominic Richardson or Caleb Etienne is going to BYU now. They're losing starters. A&M has lost a couple of those. A&M's the biggest thing is they've lost these guys that they were expecting to be starters by now or next year. Those guys are all gone. So it's a little bit different. Sometimes it's not about the volume, it's about the value.
Yeah, but some of those guys that left were also toxic. And, they were creating what may be a lot of what went wrong last year. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations. Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 schools expect to be very active in the transfer portal. I think these, there's going to be a lot that are, but I think these are going to be surprisingly aggressive. And one of them today, already, I just mentioned ATN from Oklahoma State now signing with BYU. Number 5, BYU. We talked to Kalani Sitake, Smokey, you and I did last week, and I just got the sense from him that they've already done a lot of things in the transfer portal. Heck, their quarterback, Slovis, is from there. This is going in year 1 into the Big 12. They want to make sure they're as ready as they can be and as deep as they can be. And maybe it's not necessarily about filling out guys who are going to be like A-plus starters, but maybe starters and regular rotation pieces for them. Caleb Etienne's going to start for them, and that's going to happen. But BYU, I think you're going to start seeing them be pretty aggressive in this.
In the transfer portal?
In the transfer portal, yeah. Pretty aggressive here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't know enough about their needs and wants and all of that, but I could see it. They're going to want to make a splash, like you said, and they've already hit it a little bit. I'm fascinated by the Slovis, addition and how he performs after bouncing around a little bit. They obviously needed somebody with Jaron Hall departing. I think BYU is a school that's well set up to go add some pieces, and again, they seem like they're I know UCF probably because of Plumlee, but, BYU is the one that seems like they're best acclimated to the type of schedule upgrade that they're going to be undergoing as far as just the amount of depth on the schedule. Not necessarily the teams, but just the number of teams of quality that will be a little bit of an uptick.
By the way, we had that segment with him last week, and I mentioned that are they also because of their age? And BYU fans are a little bit sensitive to that because, first of all, a lot of teams are older now. They used to be among the oldest because of the mission trips, but they get a little bit sensitive to that. So I get it. They kind of gave me some details and data that their team might not be quite as old as sometimes people think. Well, but it was the case for the longest of time.
It's probably also just depends on kind of the cycle. You can have some of your best players coming off of that year, and then sometimes you just don't. You never know how guys are going to be until they really get there and are there full time. Number 4, I guess it's 2 years. I'm sorry. Florida. This is a team that just have a lot of holes to fill. They really, quarterback chief among them. And right now, quarterback's not something that is really abundant in the transfer portal. That all kind of happens. If you're a quarterback, you kind of want to go where you're going to go before spring because you wanted to see if you're going to be a starter. They and the next school are in similar spots, although they're in one of the more awkward ones because they're trying to make headway in the SEC East, which has the best team in the country in it in Georgia. And they don't have, really a lot of answers at the quarterback position right now and some others as well.
All right, I got a question. What's the timeline of Emory Jones and Mertz? Because Emory Jones is where now?
He's at Cincinnati.
Okay. Did Mertz join, or was Jones?
Emory Jones has already decided to leave, and then so
because I saw there,
he was at Arizona State last year, so he's.
I was reading a story, and I was like, "Golly!" Their quarterback. Look at the Florida's quarterbacks. I was like, "Man, that could be a problem."
Yeah, Emory Jones is already gone.
Yeah, he went to Arizona State. Now he's at Cincinnati. He's a grad transfer. So, they've got they've got issues at that position, and that Bailey Napier wasn't ready for it. And obviously was counting on, okay, I have Graham Mertz, I've got Jack Miller, who hasn't played all that much, and then I'm going to have Jaden Rashada, who's an exciting young freshman that, like if everything kind of goes to pot in the first few games, I can just say let's unleash Rashada and see what happens. Well, now that didn't happen, and they've got another great highly recruited quarterback coming up in a year in Lagway, but that's still a year from now.
Okay.
So they've got issues. Number 3, Auburn. Auburn has quarterbacks that have played on the roster for Hugh. They haven't played for Hugh Freeze. He's got guys like Ashford and Finley who have all played, but if they're not his guys, they're also not going to be well received there, I guess. And the other thing is, look, Hugh Freeze is going to be as aggressive as humanly possible because he believes he never should have been out of the SEC. He went and proved why he should be back in the SEC. And he doesn't want to sit. He is also at the place where people get tense really fast, maybe faster than anywhere else in the country, and wants to prove to them early on that they've made the right decision so he doesn't have to deal with what every other coach at Auburn seemingly has to deal with, although that's probably not going to happen unless he absolutely rattles off some national championships and starts beating Alabama on the regular. But he's got a situation that he's got a fan base that's really tense and strange and wants to get out ahead of the curve, which is going to be hard to do with the quarterback he's got in the roster right now.
I would think Auburn will have plenty of help when it comes to the transfer portal.
And other players too, but that's the chief among them.
Well, they could be losing even one more. TJ Finley's flirting with the transfer portal, apparently, or at least has made the comments that have led Auburn fans to believe that he could be headed that way. He was on a podcast, was it Locked on the SEC or something, and said from a competition standpoint, they brought in Calzada, they brought in Ashford. That's a slap in the face that you don't believe in what you already have. They bring in 2 guys that are close to the same age as the guy that you have that finished the season the previous year. Said his mind goes into immediately, let's work. I think that's what I did. I proved to everybody I deserved to be the starter, yet neither me nor Robbie got the go-ahead, and so on and so on. But he had a lot to say about it, and he's at least leaving the door open for right now on the possibility he could enter the portal, so it could get a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. Number 2, Arizona State. This is a team that's trying to rebuild in a hurry, and Kenny Dillingham already doing it. I mean, you saw the guys they have going out the door. He's going to be just as aggressive to try to get the guys in the door there, and already has some of it. They've got 2 transfer quarterbacks that are probably going to play. One of them is going to start this year before they hope Jaden Rashada is ready to start in a year, if not sooner than that, but he's been there in the spring. And they've just got to load up because there's no, you could tell me that Arizona State, lost 30 guys and they're bringing in 50, and it would make sense to me based on the state of what their roster had to be over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did a good job of at least addressing it as quickly as they did. I mean, they've got better options than some folks when they take over a situation. But I'd imagine Kenny Dillingham's going to get that corrected in pretty short order. And offensively, they're going to be robust and ripe and ready to go. But, they acted pretty quick through the portal. I'm sure they'll be even more active here over these next few days as well. And that's going to be a really interesting team to watch. They're taking a lot of crap in all this realignment talk. A lot of people poo-pooing on Arizona State football and, just the state of the program and all that post Herm Edwards. But I don't know. It seems like there's a little bit of juice there now, and I'm really interested to see what Kenny Dillingham's able to do with that, especially knowing the lay of the land so well.
I actually think that they could be the Pac-12 school that owns L.A. the most if they play it right.
Could be.
Should the league stay together?
It's a beautiful campus.
Yeah, and it's,
It really, now some people disagree with me when I said that before. I think they got great views. I love the mountains. And maybe they need to be touched up a little bit. I think I've always thought Arizona State was a sleeping giant.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think they are, they've got a lot of potential that they have not hit yet in football. Number 1, we just talked about them, Texas A&M. They've lost so many guys off this. They've got to get starters. They've got to get people that can contend in the SEC. Now, look, in the secondary, they've gotten 3 guys, Tony Grimes, Sam McCall, and now DeBerry, all there. And that's great. That's good for them. But they have got to make sure that this works because they are heading into a situation, especially Jimbo Fisher, where, look, Craig just said it, the Longhorns are coming in a year. And if we don't think that has anything to do with the decision-making in College Station, it was the only reason they left the Big 12. They didn't leave the Big 12 because of Oklahoma. They didn't leave the Big 12 because of anything else was going on. They left because of Texas. So to think that they're not going to react to Texas coming into the SEC after they've had this decade plus of not having to deal with them is crazy. Texas is in the fight song. This is what they're going to do when Texas comes in. So they're going to be reactionary about the Longhorns.
In a matter of like a less than 12 to 18 months because of the story from 2021, 2 years, A&M, even though they had a good team in 2020, but it has flipped because they were ahead. They looked like they were in that little crescent, that crescendo towards excellence. And now here's UT. They're rebuilding with what Sark has done. And they had, at least you see this upside of what they're doing. It's going to be interesting. Both have disappointed at times when you have a lot of hype. But I would think if you're an A&M fan, you got heartburn. Because I think for the longest time they didn't care anymore. They're where they are, like in a different country of the SEC. And I would think that there's got to be, damn, man, we had an opportunity to like absolutely put our foot on their neck, and we've let that up because of who they were last year and also who they're losing. And then Texas seems to have a little momentum.
Yeah, and y'all focus all this attention on Texas, and I get it. They don't view Oklahoma the same way, but Oklahoma's just another body they're going to have to now deal with as well that they haven't necessarily had the best historical success against, and who's also right in their backyard, basically, if you're looking at, closest teams around you. I know there's others that are closer, but, Oklahoma's, for all intents and purposes, a northern Texas school.
Yeah.
So it's like, they can come in and carve it up. So, yeah, they've been swimming with sharks. They should be used to it, but there's a couple more that are about to jump into the pool with them too. And, it'll be a very curious year to see where they stand when the dust settles, because you can just feel it. There's just a lot going on right now with that program and Jimbo and the state of their direction and all that. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. By the way, TJ, go ahead. Sorry.
Here's what I would say about Oklahoma. A&M fans have been so obsessed with Texas coming back in that they have not taken the minute to think like, oh, crap, Oklahoma's coming too.
You think obsessed is the right word?
Focused. We'll call it focused.
Yeah, that may not be fair.
Infatuated.
They know what's going on. They know what's about to happen, but I think obsessed is probably not fair.
That's probably not a fair term, but like
and focused it goes both ways too.
Yeah, it does.
Don't let the hotties we don't think about. No, there's plenty of people that dedicate hours of their day every day to just talking about A&M.
Yeah. So, but I do think that like it's one of those things that when they play Oklahoma again, they're going to be like, "Oh crap, we forgot about this."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Them.
Well, and you know what? Maybe they're looking at it like a lot of other people that they're not so worried about Oklahoma these days. I know that there's at least that small amount of sentiment out there right now just because of, the turnover with Venables and the year last year. For them, I think how they exit the Big 12 after dominating it and they go into the sunset, that's going to be very interesting as well. But just the state of things to wrap it up here, TJ Finley, this is college football these days. On his big rant about, the competition being a slap in the face last year, then bringing in guys and, now where they are now. I graduate in June. If I wanted to, I could transfer as a grad transfer. Right now, my heart is in Auburn, but everything really is up in the air right now. So that's just kind of where we are with a lot of it.
Jaden Nunn, Carlos Silva, Jared Stansberry, Matt Rule, Mac Rhodes, Mike Singletary, John McClain, all of those guests today on the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for those of you in the chat. We really do appreciate it. We try to go back and forth when we're able to monitor it. Emery's job of being the I guess, what do you call it? The hall monitor. Garrett Ross, great stuff. Jack McKenzie, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and our great sponsors. We appreciate them. Another busy show tomorrow as we head to the week to go to Hump Day on Wednesday. I'm David Smoak. Thank you so much for being a part of this 365 Sports family, and good night.